If you've ever made a double bogey on 15 at Augusta and then again on 17, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Folks, welcome back to another episode of Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook for Friday, April 11th. We're going to close the week out strong here. What a week it's been. It's felt like 3 weeks. Markets all over the place. Green arrows above here. China saying that they're going to put more tariffs on, and the U.S. market goes, yeah, I don't care, and goes higher. So here we are in the pre-market. We're going to break it all down. Great to see a whole bunch of returning faces. We're almost at mice down, drinks up time. One more session, folks. One more session. Benzinga's pre-market playbook for Friday, April 11th starts right now. Good morning and welcome back, folks. Great to see a whole bunch of returning faces. I hope that you have some fun plans lined up for this weekend because, frankly, if you paid attention to the news or the market, you deserve a couple of days off. You deserve some decompression time. I'm going to do that on the golf course and watching the Masters. We'll see how it goes. Oh, my God, Rory last night. What are you doing? What are you doing? Anyway. Great to see a whole bunch of returning faces here. Crimp Biscuit in the house. Good morning. It's great to see a Florida yacht insurance guy. You're checking in from South Carolina. Awesome. One of my coworkers down there in South Carolina. Welcome back. Good to see you. Azrar, good morning. Welcome back. Pete, good morning. Locked in, ready to go. Sun-kissed Yogi, welcome. Oh, easy for me to say. Welcome. We are ready to rip it here today. Couch Potato, good morning. Chuck, good morning. Bernhard, good morning. Creation and Wiss, good morning. Day Trader, locked in, good morning. Fairchild, everyone ready for that Mullen reverse split? I'm not ready. Forget it. I'm going to pass on Mullen. Good morning, Fairchild. Bill, good morning. How are you? Big Bees, good morning. Last day of the week. Let's get it. We will get it. Yeah, so fine. Yeah, your username, so fine. What's going on? Good morning. Diamond Hotline, welcome back. Quantum, welcome back. White Chocolate Mocha. Now we can start our day. I've got tea. He's got White Chocolate Mocha. We're ready to go. Tom, good morning. Another day above ground. Gotta love it. You know what's funny, Tom? Jay Wild was actually saying that to me yesterday. Completely agree. We made it another year, man. Spring is here and we are above ground. Bless up. We're good. Amoris, good morning. Happy Friday. Austin, good morning. Nice to see you again. Jeff, good morning. High Performance Mini Boats. What an awesome name. Hey, Ryan, whatever happened to Joel, Dennis, and Mitch? They all went their separate ways and are doing other things. But good morning. Welcome back. Tanya, welcome back. Ed, welcome back. Nomad, welcome back. Jim, welcome back. And Zoo, great to see you. Good morning. All right, folks, let's dive right in. Just a look ahead here real quick. Remember, there is no Anne Marie today. She's traveling on a much-earned vacation. If I do get any updates from her while she's out of the office, I'll just pass them along to the group. I know she's on the other side of the world here, so it might be a little tough, but we'll still try. And then also, we're going to have Mark Petrino on today. So if there are stocks that you want to chart out here, maybe start thinking about that. We'll go ahead and ask Mark when he comes on. Do you think I should call him Marky Mark, by the way, when he comes on? I don't know if he'll like that. We'll see. We'll feel it out. All right, let's go ahead and dive right into the SPY. Why is this not working? There we go. There we go. All right, let's dive and take a look in at the charts. Okay, so first of all, this is, let's start here with the futures. S&P futures up by about 0.4% here. They're moving around a little bit. Did we just get a data print at 8 o'clock? I don't think so. No, that might have just been moving around. S&P futures up here by 0.4%. Dow futures up here 0.3%, and the NASDAQ futures up here 0.5%. So green arrows across the board. Now, this comes after the futures were actually lower here this morning. Again, we have a story about it that we're going to dive into, but the TLDR, China slapping more tariffs on and saying, we're not going to go any higher because this is a joke. And our market said, yeah, I don't care. We're going to go green here no matter what you do. Doesn't really matter. And looking at the SPY here, this is kind of where we finished the day yesterday. I was saying to the happy hour group yesterday, it was unfortunate because even in this back and forth, there were some times where it just felt like I knew what the next move is, or better put, I had a good idea of what the next move was probably going to be, and I felt like I had an edge and I could trade that. We talked about TQQQ, SQQQ, SPXS, calls, puts, the whole 9 yards. There's all different types of ways to trade that, and I felt pretty good about that. Actually did pretty well, too, on some of those. Didn't really have to take many losses, just had to be patient. Yesterday is a little bit different, though. Right at the end of the day, and I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, should I take a position for overnight into Friday? And I was like, well, how do you kind of see this right now? And I kept going back and forth. I kept waffling a little bit, and I was like, I don't think I have an edge, so I'm not going to force a trade. So I come in today with nothing else added for a particular trade. Not sure how I feel about that. But if we take a look here at the SPY, we actually had a pretty wild day, just kind of given the movement. If we look inside, we can really see what happened. Of course, we had the huge pop from Wednesday. In the pre-market here, we were just kind of giving some of it back. That seemed to be normal, especially after any huge impulse move like that. A little bit of a move back is actually healthy, beyond normal. And when the market opened, it really couldn't find its footing, and then it started to sell off. And oh man, hopefully y'all folks were able to have some type of insight into the Twitter world or the internet world, because oh my God, people were freaking out. It was, I mean, I hate to say this because I really don't like putting myself in this position, but man, it became comical at one point. Just the amount of pearl clutching and hair on fire, and just, it was crazy. It was crazy. And then lo and behold, we bounced. And we closed right here about 525. Now, if we go back to the daily chart and kind of look where we're at here, we closed above the 15% pullback level. Yes, this candle does kind of look like a hammer that really bounces off of the 500 there. So I could totally see why you'd say, well, if that actually kind of looks like a bullish candle, maybe we'll test the high end of the range, and maybe we will. But we knew China was going to come back with something. We still haven't had any deals yet with some of the other countries that want to negotiate. So how much positive news was actually baked into that just felt like I really didn't have an edge going into this morning. Now, however this market opens and trades, we'll reassess here today, but didn't carry any positions over. Couple of things. This is obviously an inside candle. I mean, the candle prior was just gigantic. So the next thing that I'm going to be looking at for here is a fairly obvious one. Do we break out or down from this candle? I would have to say that I wouldn't be surprised if we actually tested the 480 level one more time over time. I'm not sure that we're going to get that here today, maybe not even early next week, but I wouldn't be surprised as everything kind of gets figured out and rolled out here if we end up testing that 480 level. Remember, coming into this whole thing, this stock market was completely frothy, and you had reports of that from all different places. And I think that one of the things that the tariff back and forth here has kind of made some traders forget about that. So I wouldn't be surprised if, as this stuff kind of all settles, we actually resolve lower. We'll see. And we'll see what kind of time frame that has. But the levels that I'm looking at here, I'm basically just going to use this candle here from Wednesday, April 9th. We break out of the high of this, 548.62, giddy up. We're actually going to be either challenging or above the 20-day. And I think that then puts this small little gap fill up here. And then we also have the 50 and the 200, which are converging here for our death cross. And that leads me to the downside. We're getting a death cross. So maybe we end up rolling over, falling through the 15% pullback level. I wouldn't be shocked if we found some type of support at this 500. We've done it a few times already. So maybe on a more orderly move to the downside, we actually might find some support there. And then it's eventually that might give way. And then we can kind of come in here and test some of these lower levels and hopefully find a bottom. We'll see if that's where we end up going here today. Again, no position here, so I'm kind of going to reset the deck, if you will, when the market opens here today. All right. Let's talk about some of the news here. We just talked about the futures and what the pre-market was like here. When this article was written, the futures hadn't moved up yet, so I gave you kind of a more updated version on that. But I did want to go over some of these insights from analysts, because one of the other things that happened yesterday, we got good data and nobody talked about it. Who's surprised about that? Not me. The U.S. core consumer price inflation, excluding food and energy, moved down to 2.81%, the lowest level since March of 2021. And the overall U.S. CPI moved down 2.39% in March, the lowest level since February 2001. Quote, Fed is likely to cut rates again on June 18th, end quote. That might lead to our first question here today. Who thinks we get a rate cut in the June meeting? Producer, maybe come up with something a little bit more clever, I guess, with the question here. Do we cut in May? Do we cut in June? Do we cut in September? What do you folks think? Do you think, first of all, I guess, do you think we're getting a rate cut? And the second question I have is, when do you think we're getting the rate cut? Charlie Bello here telling you, probably going to get one on June 18th. Overall, give you the stats there. Based on this data, the Fed is likely to cut rates again on June 18th, a 25 bips cut down to 4 to 425. So we'll see here if Charlie is correct. He added that this data, quote, should be enough for the Fed to resume cutting rates in June. And then that leads to, well, if we do get a rate cut in June, how many rate cuts do we get this year? That's, of course, going to be the next question, and that is going to be what the market tries to sniff out. U.S. core CPI inflation is back below 3% for the first time in 4 years. This should be enough. Well, that's so strange because all of these gloom and doom experts were telling me that all of these tariffs were going to increase inflation, and we just haven't seen that yet. How about that? As tech stocks experienced significant volatility following President Donald Trump's tariff announcements, Alexander Morris, CEO of FM Investments, viewed the pullback as a buying opportunity for select Magnificent Seven companies. Interesting. Didn't hear about that yesterday either. We have long been investors in the Mag 7, not all of them, but a handful of them. And you'll see us more into some Apple, which seems to be at a discount. Now, this one is a little shocking here because Apple, I still think, has some headwinds with the whole China exposure. We'll see. Not all of them, but a handful of them. Apple seems to be at a discount. Quote, we've picked up some Meta, which seems to have also done well. Meta's an interesting play, and we'll see if they become under fire at all as the tensions heat up here between the U.S. and China. Morris recommends investors maintain a disciplined portfolio allocation like a 60-40 mix through market volatility, noting that the repeated resurgence of such strategies. He advises choosing an allocation and sticking with it through market cycles until life events necessitate a change, emphasizing its self-balanced nature. Morris also cautions against market timing as significant returns often occur within a few days throughout the year. Now, it's not using the same words there, but doesn't that sound awfully similar to what Tim Melvin has been telling us? Seems like some of these smart people are on the same side. The concern going forward is that prices will rise and the economy will slow, said Cooper Howard, director of fixed income strategy at Schwab Center for Financial Research. Quote, this will put the Fed in a difficult place, end quote. Now, to be honest with you, the Fed seems like it's always in a difficult place. It doesn't really seem like news to me, but we'll see how this all shakes out. Good stuff right there. Okay, next thing that we're going to talk about here, Xi Jinping. Oh, thank you, producer. Pull up. When do we get a rate cut? May, June, or later in the year? This is what I was talking about being clever, producer. Way to go. No rate cut in 2025. Your final option there. Get your votes in. Appreciate that. Love it. Okay, next news story here. This is regarding the tariffs that we just got. Xi Jinping says, quote, there are no winners in a tariff war as China slaps 125% tariffs on U.S. good and urges Trumps to immediately correct, quote, wrongdoings. Okay. Cool story, bro. China has significantly increased tariffs on U.S. goods from 84% to an unprecedented 125%. The U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods are 145%. On Friday, this move comes as a countermeasure to the Trump's administration's similar actions. China Customs Tariff Commissions of the State Council has declared that any additional tariffs imposed by the United States would be disregarded. How about that? Given that the U.S. exports to China already have no market acceptability under the current tariff rates, if the U.S. further imposes additional tariffs on Chinese goods, China will simply ignore them, end quote. Okay, cool. One of the other news stories that we got yesterday, we got a scoop on the internet via Charles Gasparino that the incoming SEC chair would look into delisting Chinese stocks. Now, we talked a little bit about this in happy hour. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely familiar with the delisting process, so I didn't really have an opinion yet as I want to kind of read more about the possibility. I've never been I just never done that. Now, we did have a discussion with several folks that are familiar with this process, and one of the things that they were mentioning is that a couple of things. First of all, the stocks that, if this does go through, and that's a long shot, if this does go through, the stocks that would be delisted would be ones that have significant ties to the government. Not just any old thing, but significant ties to the government. And then the other aspect here is that this process does take a long time. So even though this administration seems to be doing things at a very quick pace, it's very unlikely that they'd be able to set up any type of delisting measures for some of these stocks with a very, very quick pace. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but to me, the takeaway for me at the end of the discussion here is I don't know that I necessarily need to rush to sell anything Chinese in my portfolio. I'll probably have some more time. So just kind of going with the calm side of the equation there and doing the same thing that we're doing regularly, hoping that cooler heads prevail. So just as kind of an aside. The commission maintains that U.S. exports on China have already struggled to find market acceptability under the current tariff rates, reported South China's Morning Post. A spokesman for the Ministry of Commerce emphasized China's commitment to safeguarding its legitimate rights and interests. I'm sorry for laughing. Supporting the multilateral trading system and maintaining the stability of the international economic order. The ministry criticized the U.S. tariff measures as, quote, a typical act of unilateral bullying and coercion, end quote, which violate World Trade Organization's, big whoop, rules and undermine rules-based multilateral trading in the system and international economic order. Boy, guess you shouldn't abuse those relationships. Just saying. In his first reaction to President Trump's tariffs on China, Xi Jinping told visiting Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, quote, there are no winners in a tariff war, and standing against the world ultimately results in self-isolation. So it seems to me that Xi has a kind of a problem admitting that this is mostly about China, and we'll see how long that goes on here. According to China expert and political commentator Gordon Chang, the Chinese president is avoiding direct negotiations with President Trump to prevent potential political backlash at home. Big time shout out to our boots on the ground in Asia, our members that literally are in Asia, that are giving us constant updates on this and just what different people in China are saying, how they approach this whole cultural thing and the whole nine yards. We've kind of been on top of this for a long time. It is absolutely the case that Xi seems to be caught between a rock and a hard spot. We'll see how it shakes out. Good to hear this. Good to hear this confirmation here from Mr. Chang. Xi is in a difficult position where initiating a conversation with Trump about the trade war could lead to a backlash from his fellow Communist Party leaders. No bueno. Notably, China is not immune to the adverse effects from Trump's tariffs. Goldman Sachs downgraded China's growth forecast and warned of risk to 20 million export-linked jobs in the nation. However, the investment bank cited overall global economic gloom as a reason besides Trump's tariffs. Okay, we shall see how this plays out. Now, this next story here, this is interesting. I don't necessarily know what's going to happen here, what's going on here, but this is definitely something that I want to pay attention to, and this has to do with Intel. We'll take a look at the chart here again. Intel. Lip-Bu Tan, the new CEO there, newly appointed CEO, has deep financial ties to China's tech sector, including investments in companies reportedly linked to Chinese military. Yikes. Tan has control of over more than 40 Chinese companies and investment funds and holds minority stakes in over 600 others through firms he owns or manages, including at least 8 with reported ties to the China's People's Liberation Army, reported Reuters. The report, based on U.S. and Chinese corporate filings, found that Tan retains control or minority stakes in hundreds of Chinese tech firms via Walden International and Hong Kong-based holding companies Sakaria Limited and CN Limited. In many cases, he co-invested alongside Chinese government entities and state-owned enterprises. Among the companies identified are suppliers and contractors for the PLA, including partnerships with China Electronics Corporation, a key PLA supplier and sanctioned by the first Trump administration in 2020. Tan was also an early investor in Semiconductor Manufacturing Corp, China's largest chip foundry, which is under U.S. sanctions due to military links. Now, while it's not illegal for U.S. citizens to invest in Chinese companies unless they are specifically blacklisted, Tan's ties have raised question given Intel's central role in producing advanced chips for the U.S. Department of Defense. So here you go. I have no idea how this is going to shake out. From where I come from, I guess just background wise, my personal feeling on this would be the benefit of the doubt. But again, I'm sure this is going to get looked into. I'm sure this is going to get researched more. I'm kind of unsure how this is really going to all play out. I don't have a position yet, but this is definitely something that I would pay attention to. One of the things that I really said about Intel is that this definitely needs a CEO change. It needs a executive change at the top. And honestly, Lip-Bu Tan's resume, which should be all that matters here, is phenomenal. And this absolutely could be someone that can bring this company back. So again, maybe that's just me being hopeful. We'll see how this is going, how this ends up shaking out. Intel did not immediately respond to Benzinga's request for comments, as we always do. We reach out to these companies to see if they give us anything official that we can go off of. No response. No immediate response from Intel. Tan's appointment comes at a critical time for Intel as it seeks to reclaim leadership in advanced chip manufacturing. We've also heard about how Taiwan Semiconductor and Taiwan are going to invest money in the U.S. to help this too. So as far as this being critical, yeah, completely agree. Critics argue Tan's extensive financial involvement in China tech and military-linked sectors may present a conflict of interest, or at least warrant heightened security, the report noted. Quote, the simple fact that Mr. Tan is unqualified to serve as the head of any company competing against China, let alone one with actual intelligence and national security ramifications like Intel. That quote comes from Andrew King from Bastille Ventures. Others, however, defend Tan's deep experience in global tech investing. Quote, he was at the top of most investors' lists, said Bernstein analyst Stacy Rasgon. Quote, he's a legend. And this is kind of where I fall in. I got no problem with, investigating and make sure national security isn't being breached, the whole 9 yards. That's fine. But again, just wanting to kind of stay I want to stay glass half full. I really don't want to become entirely pessimistic. Stacy Raskin has done a great job. I've read his notes for a number of years. I think he's an extremely bright guy. If this is what he thinks after his illustrious career, then I tend to give him the benefit of the doubt. Again, we'll see how this shakes out. It's easy for me to say that because I don't have a position in Intel and I can take one at any time. So it's very easy for me to just kind of sit by and wait. But this, to me, is an interesting story. Well, Tan has reportedly divested some Chinese holdings. The publication found no full accounting of those exits. China corporate databases continue to list many of his investments as active. Intel stock price dropped 1.68% year to date. It is now down 47.17% over the past 12 months. Despite the decline, Intel holds a respectable growth score of 3.48% based on Benzinga's Edge stock rankings, which you can see. Remember, Tim Melvin helped with all of those. So interesting stuff here on Intel. Interesting stuff here on Intel. Again, we will see how it shakes out. All right. Next here. Oh, you know what? I beg your pardon. I did want to go to the chart here real quick. Ticker INTC Intel. Let's go. You can see we are still at this area. I'll tell you what, this 18 to 19 area, I have a hard time telling anyone, hey, I don't think this is a good area to trade from. Literally going back to August of 2024, I believe this was the yen carry trade unwind. This thing has found incredible support right here and has traded up a number of times. So we'll see if this actually provides for another trade here. This, again, I have this range basically from 18 to 19. The current price here is 1967. And we do have this like kind of group of moving averages above. I would probably trade it against this low if I were having it. RSI kind of in no man's land right here, not really at an oversold category. So let me know if you guys like Intel, what you think about all of that, how that might fit into the whole jigsaw puzzle of this world global trade that we seem to be going through. Okay, now, this is my favorite story of the day, folks. My favorite story of the day. And I think, what time is it? 8:30, almost 8:25. I think we'll probably be going to Mark here pretty soon when he joins, but we got to get this one done. Peter Schiff, here we go. Bitcoin's final crash, question mark. Peter Schiff predicts the 2025 crisis will end what 2008 created. Day trader, I need to get your opinion on this, man. I've been waiting. Literally, I read this story at like 5 o'clock this morning, and the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, I can't wait to hear what Day Trader says about this one. We'll see. You might have already read this. Peter Schiff, a well-known economist, took to social media on Thursday to express his views on Bitcoin in the context of the current market conditions. He stated that while Bitcoin emerged from the 2008 financial crisis, 2008 financial crisis, the ongoing financial turmoil of 2025 could mark its end. Schiff's statement comes amid heightened financial instability and economic challenges. Schiff's post on X highlighted his skepticism towards Bitcoin, which he has often criticized in the past. He has previously referred to Bitcoin as, quote, digital risk, end quote, especially during times of economic uncertainty. Here's the tweet. It will live forever because the internet makes things live forever. His remarks also coincide with the recent discussion of tariff policies and their impact on the economy. Schiff has been vocal about his criticism of Donald Trump's tariff strategies, likening them to historical economic blunders. Schiff's view mirrors a broader skepticism among some economists regarding the stability of cryptocurrencies. In a recent analysis, Schiff labeled Bitcoin as a digital risk amid tariff concerns, questioning its status as digital gold. Nothing new there. Schiff's critique also ties into his broader economic commentary, no surprise there, where he's compared Trump's tariff policies to the infamous Hindenburg disaster, suggesting they expose vulnerabilities in the U.S. economy. Furthermore, Schiff has warned against taking investment advice from the Trump family, especially after Eric Trump's endorsement of the second largest cryptocurrency, Ethereum, saw a significant price drop. Despite Schiff's dire prediction, history tells a different story. Gosh, who's shocked about that? According to bitcoindeaths.com, I learned about this website here this morning. I'm going to bookmark this and go back to it. According to bitcoindeaths.com, had an investor put just $100 into Bitcoin each time it was declared dead, which has happened 429 times to date, they would now be sitting on more than 83 million. I'll tell you what, my advice here, I don't often give unsolicited advice, but I'm going to give some here. Peter Schiff, drink some tea, go watch a sunset, take a few days off. I think that's probably the best move here for you. Take a few days off, boss. Okay, 8:30 just about, and it's Friday. You know what that means. It's time for Mark. Let's see how he's doing. All right, Mark, good morning. Happy Friday, my man.
Hey, how's it going?
Dude, I'm doing great.
I was watching Smokey and the Bandit last night.
How did that go?
Talk about a friggin' Trans Am, man. Oh wow.
I mean,
I would buy one of those in a heartbeat if I could.
An old one, or would you get like run around like the 2000s, or would you get the one from the 80s?
You never saw Smokey and the Bandit?
Yeah, I have.
With Burt Reynolds? Yeah, I don't know. That was probably the late 70s, so it's probably like a
okay. So you're looking for an older one? Okay, I get it.
But yeah, it's pretty sweet. Anyway, yeah, so things are going good. It's been kind of a crazy week. I think this is really kind of a good week as an example. We should really kind of, cut out a lot of the noise. And I think the media is really, you got to remember the media is really entertainment. You know what I mean? They're not really there to like teach you. And you get one expert says this, another so-called expert says that. Like, I think an interesting thing that, people have been talking about the bond vigilantes. That was like the story of the day yesterday. And basically what they're saying is that because of the tariffs, a lot of bondholders were aggressive sellers. And, they think that like Trump played chicken and he blinked or whatever. I mean, I don't know, but I just want to put things in perspective here. So here's people sell bonds and the interest rates go up, right? This is the inverse chart of the bond. If you were to look at the bond, you would look at that. That would be the chart. But
oh, here, let me bring up your charts. Oh, you don't have them shared yet.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead, bring it up. We'll take a look at that.
Okay, cool.
Also, really quickly here, I know we've got PPI in less than a minute. We will post that in the chat. We'll throw a banner up there. We'll make sure we get you that PPI number as soon as it comes out. Okay, Mark, let me nix my screen share here. We'll put yours up. Here you go.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah. So anyway, people have been talking about the bond vigilantes, which are people that sell bonds aggressively when they don't like monetary or fiscal policy. And they're saying that Trump played chicken and he backed off. I mean, I don't know, whatever, this, that, or the other thing. But I just want to put it in perspective. Look at where the 10-year yield was yesterday. It's the same place it was at 2 weeks ago, and it's lower than it was in January. So you could even say yields are trending lower despite this little thing here. But that's why we just got to keep it in perspective. Like if you hadn't looked at a chart and you just listened to the news or the media about all this bond vigilantes, you would think that the bond market is in this catastrophe, right? But it's like, hey, we're just where we were 2 weeks ago. There was some volatility in between here and there, but I just think that we have to keep things in perspective. Another thing I want to point out before we start talking about stocks, and I would be happy to take questions, is we always talk about the price levels, right? And how important it is to know where these are. So this is the S&P, right? And I just want to point something out here. So we really start to sell off here. Where do we find support? Pretty much within a few points of where we found support back in September. Next day, so this was Thursday. Next day, this is Friday. Sell off. Where do we find a bottom? The same level that was support back here in August. Sell off again in the morning. Where do we open? Right? Same level where we found a bottom in April of 24, so a year ago. So this just shows you that a lot of times when things sell off and you're wondering where you should get in, it makes sense to look for former bottoms. It also makes sense to look for former tops, because if a level had been a bottom or a top, that makes it important. And I mean, you can even see it here on the S&P, right? When we rallied, where did we find resistance? At the same level that had been support. Yep. Where did we find support? The same level that had been resistance. Where do we find resistance? The same level that had been support. And, it just goes back. So the moral to the story is that sometimes, or in financial markets, some price levels are more important than others. And that's just how it is. Sometimes we know why, sometimes we don't. But the good thing is we don't need to. And something spends more time trading at a particular price level, it's going to be more important than others. We can see here, if we make a rapid move one way and then we reverse and get back to those same levels going in the opposite direction, we tend to make a rapid move back through them because we gap down. There were levels that there was really no trading at, and we ripped through these levels so quickly, there just wasn't a lot of time for there to be people trading it that have like a real vested interest. You can see something like here where you spend more time in a zone. When we get back up to it, it becomes like a zone again. So let the market be your guide and not, Kramer or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I don't know if you heard, I was basically having a little fun with our good old friend Peter Schiff here.
What's on?
Man, oh man, he thinks that this is such a terrible crisis that Bitcoin is going to die from this.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
get your tombstones ready, folks. Bitcoin 2025, all because of Trump's tariffs. I mean, it's just so unbelievable. The amount of hand wringing of people on the internet and on TV, it's something to behold. Thank God the Masters is on, Mark, because
I know.
I need something else. I need something else.
Absolutely, man. Watching the Masters all weekend.
Me too, and I'm going to be playing too. Real quickly here, your PPI print, U.S. PPI year over year for March plus 2.7 versus the plus 3.3 estimate. That number's light. U.S. PPI for month over month for March minus 0.4 versus a positive 0.2 estimate. That number's light. U.S. core PPI month over month for March minus 0.1 versus a positive 0.3 estimate. That number is light. PPIX food, energy, and transport year over year for March plus 3.4 versus a plus 3.5 estimate. All PPI numbers here light. This comes after our favorable CPI print earlier this week. So
Yeah,
again,
I mean, oil has really come down a lot.
sure has.
So that's obviously going to ease up on some of the inflationary pressures. Um, I have an oil chart over here, actually.
Sweet.
Let's see here. Yeah, now here's the thing. This level around 66.70 had been important literally for 2 years. And I find this stuff mind-blowing. If you think about how big the oil market is, the fact that we can have such a precise price level for 2 years really says something. And I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's a conspiracy to say that there are some countries that oil is what their economy is based on over in the Middle East. And it has to be at a certain level in order for their economies to be balanced. If it gets below that, well, then the economies are not balanced. So who knows? Maybe there's some rich, oil people out there just trying to hold this up. But eventually, no one's big enough to manipulate any market. And we broke down. So this will be deflationary. And, if we get back up to that level, a good chance it becomes resistance. And then you can start looking at things like, if you're an options trader, ExxonMobil follows oil pretty closely. There's a couple ETFs.
You got BTC in there, yeah.
I just want to bring up X on here.
Now you got two X's in there.
Ah, boy, shows you where my mind is. X.
It's that amen corner, isn't it?
I just, you watch those guys play, and it's just like, wow.
I constantly say to myself, how do you do that? And then I just remind myself that they just aim for the middle. And it's like,
and the other thing you got to think too, I know this sounds obvious, but it's kind of profound if you think about it. I've read estimates that anywhere from 60 million to 100 million people in the world play golf. And these are like the best, like 10, it's like the odds are greater that you get struck by lightning.
It is. It's crazy. And anyone that's actually played knows exactly how difficult it is.
So here's, here's Exxon. So it looks similar to oil. So if oil starts to go lower, this is something to consider because it's pretty correlated. But also too, for those short-term traders who are listening, here's what I would be kind of focused on, just on the S&P, and we could look at the various sectors or whatever. But this price right around here, this line, we're just going to call it 524. All right. We don't want to get too precise. Remember, it's a $500 security. But this is becoming important, and here's why. I mean, we blew right through it on this day, but it was where we had the open on this day. It's where we had the high on this day. It's here we had the high and close to the open on this day. It's yesterday's close. So, I think it looks like things are going to be more chill today than they have been, but that's kind of what I would be watching on the S&P. And if that starts to break, then I think, maybe going into the close today, we get a little bit of a sell-off. And if it holds, maybe going into the close today, we get a little bit of a rally. So I think it's really just kind of important I would be on the sidelines and just kind of see how it navigates this level. Because there's not a lot of movement this morning. So by being on the sidelines, you're not really missing out. So that's
Mark, let me jump in there. I'm so thrilled to death that you said that, because one of the ways I opened the show here today was with my analysis here of the SPY. And I had said that yesterday when I was actually in the moment, I didn't feel like I had an edge either long or short. So instead of forcing a trade, I took no trade. I sat on the sidelines, like you just said. And I'm going to reassess here today. So great to hear you say that. Looks like I did the right thing yesterday.
Well, one of my favorite all-time Wall Street quotes is, Jesse Livermore was this, legendary trader supposedly back in the 1920s. And there's a great book called Reminiscence of a Stock Operator. It's one of the all-time Wall Street classics. And if you want to learn about trading, I would recommend you read it. It's supposed to be about Jesse Livermore. And it takes, I think it was written in the 1930s, but it's just really, really classic. Like everyone who's really into trading should read it. But anyway, one of Jesse Livermore's statements supposedly was, I didn't make my money by being in the market. I made my money by being out of the market. And I think what he was referring to was that he had the patience and the emotional discipline to stay on the sidelines until he saw something that looked really compelling.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
All right. So one possible thing I'm reviewing for today, for today's chart of the day. I don't know if this will be it or not, but regardless, I can talk about it. So this Rivers Laboratory kind of really stuck out at me here.
Oh, wow. I
And
don't think I've ever even pulled this stock up. Sweet.
yeah, so
Oh my God. Look at this. Look at this range.
so this is like right back to the COVID crash. So it's right there, and you can even bring this price level back farther. This was the big bottom. People don't really remember this um, because I think it's between COVID and now. But there was a big move lower in the fall of 2018. This was like a 20% move
Oh,
lower.
I remember that December was nasty.
Yeah, I
Every
think it
day
was
was
driven
red.
by inflation fears. But anyway, so we put in a bottom here, and the S&P chart looks pretty similar to this. When we were selling off, right? Where did we find a bottom? Even though everyone is freaking out and it's COVID and it was really scary at the very beginning. I mean, I remember them showing like the refrigerated trucks at the morgue in New York City. It's like, wow. So people are just freaking out. Everything's going crazy, but the market principles still prevail. And we found a bottom at the price that had been a bottom before. Now, oh, actually, let me just go back to that. So anyway, so this is something I would be watching for a potential reversal here, especially if the market holds up and starts to move ahead. There's going to be some uh, good bang for the buck here. But the key is not to, not to guess, because it could keep going down. Just because it's oversold and it's at support doesn't mean it can't keep going lower. A potential way I would probably think about this for an entry is if the blue RSI line gets back above the horizontal red line here on the RSI indicator, that could be a good idea for a trigger to get in. So just because something is oversold and at support doesn't mean it can't keep going down. So we call this like a setup. This is like something that's on our radar
Mhm.
screen now. And if it gets triggered, meaning if maybe that RSI gets back above or whatever you think would be a good trigger for you, that's when you jump in. So you might have 20 or 30 stocks on your list that are set up. And, maybe one day only 3 of them get triggered. Maybe another day, 10 of them get triggered. I think that's a kind of a good way to look at it. All right. So let's go see, I don't know what we want to look at here. The
I got a
technology.
couple. I'm sorry. If you have anything else, let's do it. But I do. There's already some suggestions here from the chat that we'll go to.
All right, now here's our technology sector, right? 30% of the market. And you can see it was, there's some volatility here, of course. A lot of time, well, if we think about the dynamics of a market, right? Why do markets go down? They go down because people are afraid and people sell. Fear is a powerful emotion. It's more powerful than hope. Markets go up because of hope. This is why a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times resistance levels are a lot less volatile than the action around support levels. We could kind of see that here before this support broke. But bottom line is, if we did like an average price of these, 3 days in here or 4 days, we would probably be right around where the bottom was back there. So that's our tech sector. And I don't know. Let's look at some of these big guys here.
I was going to say Apple's one of the names on my list from the tech sector. Tyler is looking at that here. Real quick, Mark, I do want to hear what you have about the chart, but Tyler has actually given some context here. With the China tariffs problem going higher, why are some stocks like Apple that are heavily involved with China doing good the past few days and not tanking further? Chris, shout out to you. Apple's pulled $80 off of its highs already. Kind of
Well,
priced in there.
I think that sometimes especially in a situation like this, the fundamentals don't really count. It's more, you know, most trading that goes on in the stock market, between 80 and 90%, believe it or not, is just trading. It's high frequency trading, it's
Mhm.
quantitative trading. A very small amount of the volume on a given day is by people that are saying, "Hey, I'm going to buy this because I think in 5 years it's going to triple." Right? It's the equity markets now are like the commodities markets. Um, and relatively new, maybe over the last 10 or 15 years. But if you look at a commodity market, like just say oil, probably 90 or 95% of the trading is people that are just trading, as opposed to, hey, I own a trucking company and I want to lock in the price of oil, so I'm going to go into the oil market and buy futures. Right? This is like people use the futures markets to hedge. But most of the trading is just short term, And I think that a lot of the traders in commodities markets are more technically inclined. So you tend to see a lot more of like the classic patterns. I mean, that's just kind of anecdotal. I can't really prove it. But if we go here to Apple, think of all the people that sold that were short that are like, oh, now it's time to buy back here. So the level that was support has converted into resistance. So this will be a pretty easy thing. I mean, I don't want to say easy, but as markets go, it'll be relatively easy because you got this psychological level, $200. That's where this support is. People like psychological levels. It gets to 200. No one says I'll buy it at 198 or I'll buy it at 201. They say I'll buy it if it gets to 200. So you got people back here that bought their shares who, they were happy until here, assuming they still owned it. And they're like, oh man, now I'm underwater. If I can ever get out of this thing at break even, I'm going to. So I'm going to hold on to my losing position. And if I get a chance to get out of break even, I'm going to take it. So when we rally back up to the $200 level, you get people that are remorseful from over here, placing sell orders over here. And that turned the level that was support into resistance. So it's a very common thing in the markets. So just like we got to watch how SPY navigates the level we talked about, we got to see what happens with Apple and how it trades, below 200 here. I mean, there's $10 in between here and 200. So if we do start to move ahead, there's a trade to be made there. But I would suspect we're going to get resistance around here. And this morning it's quiet. And the way I trade, or traded, I should say, I would wait for this to, in my strategy, we wait for it to get above 200. And that's where I would jump in on the long side. And then, on the downside, if it gets down to around 170, the former bottom, there's a good chance there's going to be a bottom again, right? For whatever reason, this is where the sell-off ended. That's where the buyers came out of the woodwork. It may not be a clear level that was formerly important, but, markets evolve and they go on. And now that this has been like a major bottom and a major week that was literally historical, that's going to give this some importance. There's a lot of people who sold right down here at the bottom that now that the stock is 10% higher, they're like kicking themselves and they're saying, if it ever gets back to my price, I'm going to buy my shares back. So if you get enough remorseful sellers placing buy orders, the level, if the level that was support can become support again, right? People sell and it goes up and they're like, if it gets back to my level, I'm going to buy my shares back. So seller's remorse and buyer's remorse are what historically makes support and resistance form. Now, a lot of people will say to me, Mark, like you just said that, like, most of the trading is electronic and so forth, and you have all these quantitative algorithms and so forth out there. Well, these things are based on historical patterns. So they might be based on a pattern, that goes back since trading has been tracked, like the Dow Jones first started in 1897. So you see these same patterns over and over and over. And let me see if I got this chart here. So here's the Dow Jones. And just to kind of put it in perspective here, let me see here. Oh God, they're always trying to sell you new stuff.
Yep.
So we're going to go to all. Now this is the Dow Jones, right? Going back to the very beginning. Now look at what's going on over the last week. It's like you can't even see it. It's like a blip almost. It's not nearly as big as this one. This is COVID. Look at this. This is the housing crisis. So if you were to look at this, say you didn't have the news and you were just looking at this chart, the Dow Jones going back to the beginning, would you think that like some major, massive, economic crisis is going on? Or would you say, well, long term, it's just, that's what happens. Markets go down too. You can barely even see it. So I don't know. I just, as someone who's into history, I found that quite interesting. This is kind of an interesting thing here too, right? The Dow Jones got to 1,000 in 1966. Back then, there were no ETFs, and there was only like one or two mutual funds, and yet somehow you get this precise level at 1,000 that lasted till January of 1981. So these are people saying, "Hey, if the Dow Jones gets to 1,000, I'm going to sell my stocks." Right? They didn't have the diamond ETF back then, but it also shows you how maybe buy and hold isn't such a good idea sometimes. If you bought stocks in 1966, you would have had to wait till 1983 to make a profit. And look at these sell-offs. This is probably I think this is probably the OPEC oil crisis. This is probably when Nixon took the country off the gold standard. I mean, I don't exactly know, but look at this. This is the crash of '87. So I just think
that
that
did not end in a recession, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, exactly. That's the end of, this is like the end of the Carter malaise. But I just think this is a good chart to just make everyone, keep things in perspective and understand that history repeats itself. So
and if we don't learn history, we're doomed to repeat it. So you'll always get a fist pump from me if you want to talk about history and what we can learn from history. That's for sure. Okay, I got another stock here. I wonder if we could take a look at.
Sure.
3D wants to take a look at OGN. This is Organon. I think this is a women's health company. I'm not familiar with this ticker myself, but ticker OGN.
All right, so let's see. This thing has been knocked down, and all right, so we're oversold. And, I mean, the first thing that sticks out to me is maybe this is why you're asking about it, because you can see this, we're right at this former bottom here. So this line is right at, let's see, this line is 1103. So I'll just make it 11. Like in Spinal Tap, goes to 11.
Yep, and, I'm with you.
Thought I would stick that one in there. And then, look at the low trade here, 1105. So we're talking about literally pennies. We found support where there was support back in a year and a half ago. These price levels that are important can stay important for a long time. And we call that market memory. I mean, a price level that's important can retain its importance for, it could be months, it could be years. Some can even be decades, believe it or not. Like the financials made a peak right before the housing bubble in like 2008. They got back there 13 years later at the same precise level and ran into resistance and sold off, 13 years later. So market memory is another thing that people should consider. And like you can even see here, right? This is what we talked about before. This is like 17 and a half.
Yep.
Notice how it was resistance here. For whatever reason, this is an important price level for this stock. I mean, I don't know why, but I can tell you this, it has nothing to do with earnings. It has to do with psychology. So we get a little resistance there. We rally back. We get resistance again because you got the people that bought here trying to sell here. Then you break through and you get a reversion. And the price that had been resistance becomes support. And this is your seller's remorse. People that sell regret doing so when the price goes higher. So that becomes support. And then you get seller's remorse again. People that sold at the bottom here are going to buy their shares back here. So this is April of 24. You get back up to October of 24 and it finds support there again. We rally. And look at this, right? I've been doing this for a long time. So some of these stick out probably clearer to me than most of the people that are listening, but it just takes a little bit of practice, and you'll be able to get there, especially if like you're trading just a short or a small number of stocks. But resistance here, we go into this massive sell-off. Now, if someone was saying, gee, I'm just going to guess if it gets down to 17, I'm going to buy. Well, guess what? They missed out. If someone says, wow, around this level back here, there was resistance, so there's a good chance there becomes support there. Sure enough, where do we find support? Right at this level. Rally. Finally, the support breaks. We find support at the level that was support before. Rally. Where do we get resistance? The same level that had been support, that had been resistance. So this is really what technical analysis is to me. It's about studying what price levels are important, what's the momentum, what's the trend, and what's the psychology. I think people, overthink it, and they think it's like, a lot of people think technical analysis is like, astrology or reading tea leaves. And I guess to some people it is, but if it's done right, in my opinion, it shouldn't be that way. It's really just a study of market psychology. If you think about it, if the bulls are in charge and the market's going up, and then the bears start to take over, some of the price action that occurs when that's going on could show up in the market or show up on the chart as what we call like a reversal pattern. It's pretty simple. Like like right back here. Now, we can argue, people would argue, is this a V pattern? Is this a U pattern? It doesn't matter. It's like the bulls are in charge. And then you could kind of see in this one day here, it looked like it was going to be another up day. But by the close, the bears had taken over. This is called an outside reversal day or a bearish engulfing pattern. And, so the price action that occurred is pretty simple. It was going up and then it started going down. I mean, I don't want to sound facetious, but you could say that this is a V pattern. Is it a magical pattern? No, it's just like a wake up call. Like, hey, look at this, man. Things are really turning over. You could put in like the use of trend lines people find very mysterious, because people say to me, like, how many times does a trend line need to be touched for it to be valid? And I don't think that's a good way to look at it. I think that the crossing of a trend line is kind of just like a wake up call. If you think about the way a chart is recorded, right? Pretend this was the old days and we didn't have computers and this was after the market and you were charting it by hand. Well, as the price keeps going up, you keep making it go up on the chart. What's the first thing that something that's going up has to do before it starts going down? The answer is it needs to stop going up. So if you get a couple sideways days, that action in itself is just going to make us cross the trend line. And that's just like, hey, wake up, pay attention. There's a good chance that the trend is changing here, or that the bears are about to take over. And sure enough, that's what happened. I mean, I know hindsight's 2020, but I think that people overthink the whole concept of a trend line. Just think about it as a wake-up call. And after you've been doing it for long enough, you don't even need to put them on your chart. So you'll just be able to see it. Look right here, right? Here's our the old sledgehammer pattern, which I believe we talked about last week. So a sledgehammer is, I don't know if that's the traditional Japanese candlestick name, but it looks like a sledgehammer. Now, is this a magical pattern? Is it astrology? No. Think about what's going on here. The bears are in charge, so they're pushing the price lower. And on this particular day, it looked like it was going to be another big down day. The stock got all the way down to here. But by the close, the bulls pushed it all the way back higher. And we ended up pretty much closing right at the opening price. So this was showing a shift in the equilibrium. That's what this pattern shows. It looks like one side, or it looks like the bears are in charge. And in the morning, it was probably like, wow, this thing is down huge. But by the close, the bulls came in and then it rallied into the close. And, the rally just continued the next day. And then the break of the trend line is more confirmation that the trend was changing. And then sure enough, we had this percentage-wise a massive move here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, real quickly, if you can zoom out and go to where we are here today, you talked a little bit about setups, triggers, plans, the whole 9 yards. So it looks to me like, given where we're at, coming all the way back into that $11 support level that has, over a year old, we have a setup right here, right? So I guess what I would be asking here is, in this case, what kind of trigger are we looking at? Is it a specific level? Is it a candle formation? Is it price action? What are we looking at to trigger a new trade at this $11 level?
Well, there's a couple different ways we can look at it. So we talked about the RSI. Let's see what this looks like on the Bollinger Bands. I like using the Bollinger Bands. I think a lot of newer traders use too many things. I think you're better off just using maybe 2 or 3 indicators and just or I should say oscillators, and just get to know them really well. I mean, all I ever really looked at was Bollinger Bands and RSI, and sometimes I look at a couple other things there, like the Fisher transform is kind of interesting. But this red line is 2 standard deviations below the 20-day moving average. So the statistical programs are going to pick up on this, because 95% of trading is supposedly going to be within 2 standard deviations of the mean. Now, depending on where this closes, you could say it closed back above this Bollinger Band. Let me see if I can make this a little easier to read here. A close back above this Bollinger Band might be a trigger to get in for some people. I personally am more kind of interested in the price levels that are important, but that doesn't mean that's the right way to do it. Everyone's got to do something different. So here's our 5-day chart. And let's see if we can identify a price that has been important over the last 5 days. And I mean, I would say right here, the first thing that sticks out to me is like right around this peak here. So around 1270.
Mm-hmm.
So now if, of course, there's some room in between here and there. Now, if you're a shorter term trader, right, meaning like a day trader, look at how clear the support was around 11 and a half. So this is yesterday, like around 1 o'clock, and it was resistance through the close. And it looks like there's a little bit of trading this morning, and we're below it. So a shorter term trader might say, all right, well, you know what? If we get above this, that's where I jump in. Because what is resistance? Resistance is a group of sellers, right? It's a price level where there's a lot of sell interest. If we get above that, we call that a breakout, and that tells us something important. It tells us that the people who created the resistance with their sell orders have either finished their orders or canceled their orders. So they're out of the way. So now if the buyers want to attract sellers back into the market, they might be forced to outbid each other, and that could result in a bidding war. And that's why things go higher. There's not enough sellers around, so the buyers got to outbid each other.
Okay.
So this looks kind of interesting to me because we made the really fast move through these price levels. So on the way back up here, there might not be a lot of remorseful buyers who are trying to sell on the way back up just because we just didn't spend that much time at these prices.
Okay.
So that would be a trigger. That's what I would consider my trigger. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I think everyone needs to kind of come up with their own strategy, what works for you. If you're using, momentum indicators, you could look for a reversal, whether it's RSI like I use, or stochastics, or moving average convergence divergence. There's a lot of different ways to measure momentum, and they're all just different ways of measuring the same thing, which is why I think it's ridiculous if I see like someone has like 8 or 9 momentum indicators on their chart. So now for this trade, I think your target would be right up here at the former top.
Okay.
Now, if you're a longer swing trader, you might want to wait for it to break above this level before you jump in. And a swing trader is someone who generally takes a position for, everywhere from a few days to maybe a month or two. There's really no precise definition.
Yeah. Basically anything outside of same day and less than a year is what I like to say is a swing trade, right? So if it's longer than 1 day, but it's less than a year, you're swinging it for whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever
in a
the
market
reason
like this, that's going so crazy. You'd probably be inclined to, get out at the end of the day, even if you are a swing trader.
And to be very clear, one of the things that we have been saying here on a pretty regular basis is like, look, don't be afraid to take gains if you have them, especially when we have crazy back and forth like this. Okay, this is really good stuff. 2 quick questions here. We'll get you out so you can watch the Masters. Who you got, by the way? Who you got winning? You got anyone you're rooting for or anything?
Well, I like Rory McIlroy.
Me too.
Because I just I like Scotty Scheffler. I like the guys that didn't go over to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I could understand why they went. I mean, who's going to turn down $100 million?
I was going to say, I'm not faulting anyone for turning down generational money, but I feel the same way that you do. I totally understand that position, Mark. Totally.
Yeah, totally. But I don't know. Probably Scotty Scheffler will win again.
Okay. Yeah, I think Rory and Scotty probably my 2 favorites. I have a couple of dark horses like Sepp Straka and Shane Lowry. Okay, real quick here. 2 quick questions. Jay is asking, can you teach us more about the Fisher transforms one day? Is that something that we can do maybe next week or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in your Benzinga Pro here, I believe.
Yeah, it's alphabetical order, so it's going to be up in that.
Yeah, so that's this. That's this, and this is another indicator that I think is effective because it's based on statistics.
It almost looks like a MACD without a histogram down there.
Yeah, and the idea here is if you get a crossover, if you get to a certain level, let me bring this up here. So, the idea is if you get to a certain level and then you get the crossover, then that's your indicator, your reversal indicator. But it's not just a crossover. It has to be a crossover that's like, at an extended range. Like you might say, all right, I'm going to put this line here and I'm going to put this line here. So if we get a crossover above this line, that's a sell signal. If we get a crossover below the line, that's a buy signal. If we get a crossover within, then that's not a signal.
It's just you ignore it. Okay, this is really great, Mark. I do want to spend some more time on this. Probably next week we can probably adjust these lines so they're a little bit easier to see because those blended into the white background. Real good stuff there. We'll do that. The other question here, where was that? Give me 1 sec here. Give me one sec here. I got to find. Oh, okay. Here, Chris is asking, does technical analysis today, when everyone is, and I think what he means by that is that pretty much anyone that wants one can get a piece of broker software, even with an unfunded account, and slap these indicators on things. Does technical analysis today, when everyone is looking at charts, work as well as it did about 30 years ago when only the sophisticated few had access to real-time data and charts?
Yeah, I would say it does. And as a matter of fact, I would say it's even better now in a lot of ways because when I first came up, we didn't have ETFs, and you see some levels on these ETFs that are so precise, it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But I think the thing to remember is that these things are all based on historical patterns, which go back, like just like we were looking at the Dow Jones there. Um, you know, we could go back to the very beginning of the Dow Jones. What the heck did I just do here? Whoops. Oh, sorry. All right. And what technical analysis is, it's a study of human psychology, and humans haven't changed. I mean, if we go back here, this is like the World War I sell-off. Where does this find a bottom? The Dow Jones, right? So just like now, things find bottoms at former bottoms. This is the famous story here where it was the Wall Street panic. And I mean, look at this, right? Compare this to what we've just gone through. The market was down 50% back here. And so this is the famous story where JP Morgan got everyone in his library and locked the door and said, we're not coming out until we come up with a solution. And this was before the Fed. So they came in and, bought the bottom. And of course they made a ton of money, but we find resistance at a former resistance level, just like now. This is $100. This is a psychological level. There were people back in 1909 that said, if the Dow Jones gets to 100, I'm going to sell all my stocks. Just like we saw in the 60s. If someone said, because there were no ETFs back then, just like in the 60s, people said, hey, if it gets to 1,000, I'm going to sell my stocks. It's psychological level.
Yeah.
And, the technology, they didn't even have cars back then, and it's like, think of how long ago this is. This is 120, 130 years ago. And if there was no date on this and no price scale, this could be a chart from today.
From today, yeah, and we would look at it just like we do today. Okay, Mark, that's really, really great stuff. Really appreciate it. We are gonna. I know we were talking about this a little bit. I think we're floating the idea of an education technical analysis webinar, so we'll keep you posted on that. Appreciate that, Mark. All right, have a good one. Enjoy the golf today, my man.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
All right. That is Mark Petrino. Check out his Substack. Link is in the chat there and on the screen. Mark does a whole bunch of great stuff with us. Also, as a reminder, Mark also has content in Benzinga Edge regularly. So if you're looking for more of that, that is step number one. Also, if you want to go the pro route, don't forget, you do get access to Benzinga Edge as part of that. Okay. Mark's departure leaves room for 13. Let's check in with the guy. 13, how you doing here today?
Just realized I had my mic off.
Whoa.
I'm doing good.
When you turn that mic on, and you get a crazy reverb sound. At least I do in the headphones. Okay, awesome. What do you want to look at here today? Should we just do the movers, knock them out?
Let's knock them out.
And then we'll come back to bigger stocks here, and then we'll go right into the open. All right, I'm just going to start here with the big one of the day. This is going to be ticker MSPR. This is MSP Recovery. This stock did have some news, I believe, from last night. Yes, so in the after hours last night, MSP Recovery to eliminate $1.2 billion in liabilities through strategic partnerships and the creation of independent servicer here. That is obviously good news, and the stock is popping here up about 150%. We were just under $1.50 yesterday. We actually printed 4 briefly here this morning, but we came back in. Looks like we're kind of chopping back and forth here right around the VWAP to see if we can move higher or break down from this level. Quick look at the short interest here, 4.99% of the float shorted with 2.26 days to cover, but that days to cover is on small volume here. 287,000 shares is your daily average. Today, we're just shy of 40 millions. We should have no trouble covering that all up. Got a float here, 1.95 million. 13, what do you think?
I think this is going to be a day where we look at these movers and we're going to have to draw some trend lines. This is going to be the first one that we draw a trend line for. You're going to start with that 408 high, draw it through the high that we got at 645 and keep it going. You saw that we just had a move over that trend line not too long ago, but we could not close above it, hold above that trend line. So another attempt likely coming with this. We're going to see several of these movers. As far as the company goes, company needs cash. It needs cash bad. It has a lot of debt. That 1.2 billion restructuring through partnerships and the creation of an independent servicer. Yeah, that's great and everything, but this has a 2.7 million market cap. They have a ton of debt. I'm really nervous about this company.
Yeah.
So this isn't something you're going to want to hold on to. Just keep that in mind. We don't want to hold on to any of these movers, really. We just want to trade them. But this is one that's particularly scary. So if this does any kind of move, it's going to be something that I'm just going to be out of and probably not touch again. I don't want to own some or even hold something that has this much debt and such a low market cap. So for me, MSPR going to be looking for a break of that trend line. Try to take us up to that 408 high that we made in the morning as we opened, and where it goes from there, I'd have to look over to the left. I can provide some levels later, but for now, I'm just looking for that that break over the trend line and a run up to that 408 high.
Okay, good stuff there. MSPR. We'll see what kind of trade we get on that. Next here is going to be BGLC. This is BioNexus Gene Lab. Looks like the big pop happened here in the after hours where we doubled up on that move. Really dropped out of the pre-market here today, but tried to move higher here. I don't see, nope, that was from Friday, April 4th. Not going to be fooled by that. Don't see anything here other than the Form 8 that we got midday yesterday. It wasn't even in the after hours here. Mm-hmm. Short interest here, 64.84%. That is as of 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did get a short interest update here on all stocks effective April 9th, which was Wednesday. 64.84% of the float shorted here, 1 day to cover. Stock has a float of 1.79 million shares. On average, it trades 126,000. Today, it's traded 17 million. What do you think here?
We didn't really see much any news on why this is moving, so that's one of those indications. Oh, by the way, you need to do your trend line. This is the next one. Start at 445. Draw it through the peak that we got at. I think this is in the after hours still. So before we closed and had that drop, there you go. That's what it looks like. We did have a pop over the this trend line in the morning. Another unsustained move over it that just brought it right back down. Still watching for this to move over. We're also up near VWAP. Now, one of the things that I saw about this, because it didn't have any news, is that yesterday it did have a lot more volume than normal. So this is moving up on relative volume. I believe that's what we're seeing here. We also had a reverse split that they did on Monday. It was a 1 for 10. This and that results in the 1.79 million share float that they have. This is a Malaysian company with a U.S. office in Wyoming. They have about 2/4 of cash right now, and they're going to have to do a capital raise at some point. I don't know when, but I'm not exactly sure why they suddenly are getting shorted at oblivion. But those are all the facts that I have with this one. So same as MSPR, looking forward just to move over that trend line and try to get up to that 445 high that we had in the after hours yesterday. Probably going to see more resistance around just before $4 though, probably around the 390s.
Okay. Awesome. Real quick here, I'm going to take this question real fast. Cam saying, Ryan and 13, what's y'all's take on index funds? Index funds, an important aspect for long-term investing. This is an ideal asset to dollar cost average on as long as your time horizon is long. And the other thing here about index funds is this can actually be a pretty good way of maybe generating some income in an emergency. So if let's say you own, for example, a bunch of SPY shares and don't have a lot of money for whatever reason that particular time, and your car breaks down and you really need to fix your car. Well, one of the things you might be able to do, sell some calls against your S&P 500 ETF index fund. If the price drops and it doesn't call your index funds away at a gain, You keep that money.
Profit. Yep.
Boom. Problem solved. You've got money for your emergency. And if it goes against you, well, you actually already have that covered up, and you can go back to adding index funds as your finances allow. That's just a hypothetical example. There are many index funds here. My view on them, very helpful over the long term. These are some of the things that you can really kind of just sit on, buy and hold and sit on.
I'll just really quickly say, if you're going to have a long-term portfolio, diversification is something you really want to keep in mind and actually practice. That's one of the things you're going to want to diversify with is index funds.
Yeah, really, really good stuff there. Love this quote here from Quantum. Technical analysis doesn't give you the answers. It tells you what questions to ask. This is a really, really good quote. I see a lot of back and forth on the internet about technical analysis, how good it is, how bad it is. I'll be honest with you, every person on each side of the argument, it's silly. It's not even worth doing. It's not even worth arguing about. I got a mentor who's got hundreds of millions of dollars, never uses a chart for trading decisions. I got other traders also worth millions of dollars that can't do anything without a chart. Look what we just talked about with Mark. It's just how it goes. This argument is just silly. It's not even worth participating in.
I always view technical analysis as like a roadmap.
Yep.
I know that might be, confusing to hear because we haven't really used those since we've had Google Maps and all our maps on our phones these days. But a roadmap, it's going to tell you where you could possibly go, but it's not going to get you there. It's just going to kind of lay things out for you. But having the catalyst or the fundamentals or other factors, that's the fuel in your car that's going to get you to where you want to go.
Really good. Yep. No, I like that. I love that. I'll take that too. Okay. Good question, Cam. Glad we were able to slip that in there. Okay. Next here is going to be CDT. This is one we talked about yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
It's made a number of pushes higher before the final move right at the end of the day there. That really gave us the high. 140, a very, very key spot here today. We're holding pretty steadily above the VWAP, which is great. We do have a low here of $1. So our pre-market range here is 40 cents on a $1.28 stock. That's quite a bit. These are some of the levels that I'd be looking at here. Now, the catalyst here, Conduit Pharmaceutical shares are trading higher after the company announced it filed a patent for VTAMA. Okay, there you go.
It did a thing.
It did a thing. The the percent of float shorted here, 8.66% with 1 day to cover. Take a look at the overview tab here. Float 9.19 million. 13. What do you think here? This one.
I think we're seeing, in addition to the patent filing, there's a couple other factors at play here. They did announce a share repurchase program. I think it was yesterday. 1 million share repurchase.
Yep.
Just go to this.
Yep, it's right here in the news feed. You're exactly right.
And then also yesterday, because the volume was above average and it was kind of out of the middle of nowhere with relative to previous days, I think we're seeing a relative volume move on this as well. So a couple other things there that I think we're also seeing moving on in addition to the patent filing. Anyway. 9.1 million shares in the float. This company does need cash. They have earnings in 2 weeks, so we could we're going to see an update on what their cash position is, and they've got some headlines about their financial management. They recently paid debt and covered some senior notes. So without going through all the different news headlines and stories and SEC filings. I don't have a good read on their cash positions, but like I said, earnings in 2 weeks, we'll get a clearer picture of that, hopefully in their earnings report. But for today, get that trend line up because here's yet another one that we're looking to break to the upside soon. And if we do, I'd be looking at 140 to one. That's going to be one of the highs we got in the morning when we opened, and then the 146 high was from yesterday. So 140 to 146. I'm going to be looking at those two levels for if we break to the upside here as going to be as areas of potential resistance. Could fly higher than this though.
Okay, really good stuff there. CDT. Let's see if we get another wild move like we did yesterday. Hey, guess what? Next one on the list, another one that we are familiar with here from recently. AREB, American Rebel Holdings, is back.
Yep.
Look, that's it. The rebels are there. AREB here popping a little bit in the pre-market, up 16.3%. Does look like 9 was the key level here from the pre-market. We actually used 9 as support yesterday. So really just kind of borrowing from what Mark was talking about. Look at this. I know we broke beneath it a little bit, but we basically used this area as support yesterday in the regular session. I guess we really did also kind of use 840-ish. Also, you go back to the pre-market of Wednesday, also looked like it was using 9. And hey, look at that. The day before also looked like it was using 9 as some support there as well. 9 seems to be a very key level here for AREB. Looks like we're going to try and curl up and challenge that here today, at least from looking at this now. I don't have any fresh news here. All of the news came from yesterday. Remember, it was CEO Andy Ross appears on Miami TV. I wonder how that went. Home of the Florida Panthers and featured in New York Post for his meetings at Mar-a-Lago. And the brand continues to expand its footprint in Florida. So, okay, there you go. That was the news from yesterday. Kind of think maybe along your lines here, this might be more of a relative volume play here today. Yep. So it kind of seems like that. Again, quick look here at the short interest. We did have a slight decrease from the last print. I actually think that the first time that we looked at this short interest, we did not have this print from April 9th, if I recall correctly. So it does look like on this move here, a little bit of that short interest came in. Days to cover remains the same. Nothing there. This is a micro float stock here with 598,000 shares in the float. 13, what do you think about ticker AREB?
I think that was it. Relative volume and Momo is what's driving this morning. Now, one thing that's interesting about this, and we're just going to only lean on technicals here because I didn't bother to get into the financials or anything else with this. We've already seen this move, and we know that this can be wild. So I don't really think those are going to make a difference. I think we're just going to want to lean on some levels and some technicals here that we have. And what I'm seeing is that if we look at yesterday's price action, you have those 3 different peaks. It's kind of like a W formation, but we just didn't resolve to the upside. Yep. That middle part kind of took us up to about 1050. Okay, let's mark that off for just for a second.
You got it. I got it.
All right. So there's 1050. Now let's look at the price action from.
Well, do you want me to mark the top of the candle at 1045, or should I adjust it to 1050?
It doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
You can do whatever you want. You can make it 1047 if you want. We just know that it's going to be right about there is where we want to focus on. Now here's the next thing. We instead of a trend line that's coming down, we're going to do one that's going up, and that's going to start at about 4:15 this morning. Take it through the high of 7:15, and look where we to the top side in the pre-market.
Top side.
You might have to zoom in some more because it's okay. So at 4:15. There you have a high at 4:15, right about.
Okay, let me turn my view app off. Sorry, hard for me to see. So right here, got it.
Right there, yeah. Draw a line from there to the next. There you go. Okay, now you see how we're about to intersect with that 1050? That's why I think that's going to be an interesting spot that we could end up popping up to after we open. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. So we've had multiple attempts trying to go higher. We had it at 4:15. We had it at 7:15. I wouldn't be surprised if we had another attempt out of the open to push up, and we could end up going as high as 1050. That's kind of where I'm leaning with those 2 lines I just had you drawn. They intersect right about there.
Okay.
And there's a buttload of back holes above 10. So yes, it could knife. That's certainly possible. These things, we've seen a lot of halts. That could happen too. But I'm looking at 1050 as being an area where if we're going to trade this to the upside, that's probably about where you're going to want to take profit. I don't know if this is going to rip past 1050 or not. We certainly have levels from yesterday where it could go. But for the purpose of not being caught in something you don't want to be in, I think that would be a good spot to deleverage or just get out of it or take your gains, do whatever you want. But
you also had 3 knifes here yesterday at AREB, right? So every time we saw the price really appreciate, it knifed after that. Again, just kind of going back to don't be afraid to take gains if you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to take gains if you have it. Okay. All right. Were any of these, did you cover any of these other ones? ABSI and RX?
No, I just went to MSPR, BGLC, CDT, looked at AREB and JNVR. JNVR is still going.
Looks like this RS might be popping on this headline here. Healthcare technology stocks surge after the FDA announces plans to phase out animal testing requirements. So RXRX here looks like this is trading up. That was in the after hours yesterday when we really had this move. Now it's really kind of retraced. Oh, look, Mark would be thrilled to see this. Look exactly where this retraced to and stopped.
Oh, perfect.
Right at the top there on from the intraday high there on Wednesday. So, okay.
Also, that's interesting too, because that's where the 200 EMA is on the 5-minute.
Indeed, 498. Got it right there on the screen. So, okay, really good stuff there. Kathy mentioning JNVR. That's been a wild mover here recently. I guess we might as well take a look at it. Looks like it's up 20% here in the pre-market. I remember when we were asking, boy, is this going to hit your crazy level of 44? Well, we're 54 here today.
Yeah, that was so cool.
Bus.
That was so cool.
It actually does look like this wants to try and go higher, and guessing. And I'm not saying that it's going to do that. I'm saying it looks like it wants to do that here. Again, real quick. Also, the high intraday high from yesterday, 61.11ish. What's the exact value there? 61.36. Excuse me. Is your high from yesterday. Janover shares are trading higher after the company announced it had bought $5 million worth of Solana as part of its new treasury strategy. Did we have that news yesterday? No, excuse me. They bought 4.6 million Solana yesterday and now 5 million here today. They continue to add to the Bitcoin treasury here using the Michael Saylor model. It looks like Janover here, 54, looking like it's trying to push higher.
Yeah, it's already pushing higher. This is a breakout level here at looks like 54 and 80 something. There it goes. It's probably headed up to 60.95.
There you go.
The high from yesterday. By the way, BGLC, the one that we were talking about earlier, I didn't mention this. I didn't think it was important, but since you just mentioned the Solana angle here, this one is also trying to employ Ethereum treasury strategy. They approved that with their board back on March 5th.
Okay. All right. That should do it here for the movers, I think. Did you have anything else on your mover list?
Nope.
All right. You want to take some how much time do we have? 5 minutes. You want to take some stocks from the chat here?
Let's get it.
All right. Let's see what we got here. JNVR, RXRX. Lion saying, take a look at Amazon, Ryan. Ticker AMZN. Let's do that here. Oops. I got to type it in right. AMZN. Here's Amazon. Here's a look at the daily chart here. We're basically just in the midpoint between the 500-day and the 20-day, where we are just beneath this volume point of control that's here at 186. Let's take a look inside and see how we're doing here. We've really kind of held the levels here of the pre-market. I know we've had some back and forth here in the pre-market, but have not broken down here yet. We're doing a really good job kind of holding this low level here. I suspect this one's going to just trade with the market here today. I think you can probably look at SPY as your corollary here. I didn't see any new news here on this.
There goes JNVR right to that level I said and higher.
Amazon CEO Andy Jassy says Trump tariff costs could hit consumers as sellers pass them on, working to soften the blow. So you're just more tariff headlines with nothing new, stuff that we already knew about. I'm curious to see what kind of impact this actually does have on Amazon. I know for myself, like I think about, how are tariffs going to affect me? Well, I'm going to buy less cheap Chinese crap. And I fail to see the downside there. We'll see what that actually does here for Amazon. But that's basically it. I think that this probably trades with the market here today. 13, do you got any levels that you're looking at here, AMZN?
It looks like it's starting to consolidate a little bit here. I want to see some movement out of it. That would mean either a recapture of the 20-day SMA or a breakdown beneath the 50-day SMA. It seems to be kind of caught between those two moving averages right now. But the more concerning thing I have is the impending death cross that's coming down here. That's going to likely happen next week if the price does not recapture the 200-day SMA.
Okay. Good stuff there on Amazon. Let's see. 5 minutes. We got less than 5 minutes now. We got 3 minutes here. ICCT up again. Oh, I'm sure we'll check that. Jay Rice, good morning. Good morning, 13 and Ryan. Long week. Looking forward to some Masters and some rest and relaxation. Jay, oh my God. Preach, brother. I'm going to go to the driving range later today and get a little warmed up there. I'm going to play tomorrow, and every second that I'm not there, I'm going to be watching the Masters until it's over. So I'm with you. It felt like this week was actually 2 weeks long. It's just a normal week. We made it to Friday. We're almost at Mice Down, Drinks Up time. Okay, one more question here real quick as the Masters leaderboard is now added to the stream. One more question here real quick. I'm definitely a big fan of educational questions. I try to hit as many of these as possible. Brittany asking here 13. On AREB, why did you have Ryan draw the line from 415 to connect with the high from yesterday? I'm trying to learn the why behind this.
The line that I had him draw, the trend line, was to show that since in the pre-market this morning, we've been seeing this trend in resistance. So every time that the stock has popped it the last 2 times, it's gone up to that trend line that we drew. We've only drawn it ever since it already put that in there. But if that continues to be the trend, then the next time it tries to rally up again, I would expect that trend line to come into play. Now, I wanted to not only just lean on one trend line, I wanted to see if there are other levels of interest that could, provide some resistance as well. I noticed that the price action from yesterday had a couple of or a few areas that looked pretty interesting, but one of the earlier ones was that 1050 area from that middle of that W formation. So I thought, let's just draw a trend line. Let's just draw a horizontal line there and see where we get that intersection from the trend line. That's going to be about 1050, which is about where the high was from that move on that horizontal line. So when we have those two intersect, and if we are going to get that next move up, I would be looking at that particular area of intersection to either lighten or take profit if I'm going to trade AREB. There's no guarantee it gets up to there, but that would be an area that I would be wanting to basically be done with this. And there was another point made about this one, about how there are a lot of sellers up above 10. So that really does line up with the plan to, we just opened. Yep. The plan to get out of this mover without losing my shirt.
Okay, really good stuff there, Brittany. Let me know if that answers your question there. Awesome last name too, Tall. I wish that was my last name, being 6.5 feet tall. That would be pretty cool. All right, good stuff. Market is open. Let's roll. Let's see what we got here. NOTV popping up on the list right out of the gate there. That actually looks like that might try and go higher. Hold on, 13. Hold that thought, buddy. Poll results are in. When do we get a rate cut? Your choices were May, June, later in the year, or no rate cut. Here's how it all shakes out. June winning this with 29%. May finishing second with 28%. This might be the closest poll we've ever had here. And then 27% for later in the year. So y'all look clustered here. About the same distribution across May, June, and later in the year. 14% of you said no rate cut. Good stuff. Okay, AREB's halted?
Yep, halted to the upside, 909. So if we unhalt, we could run up to that area.
And I just lost a pretty trend line that I just spent time drawing. WTF, mate?
Just draw a trend line. Just draw a horizontal line at 1050. That should be good.
Yeah, but we had a question about the trend line. We're gonna keep it on there. I like all of that. There's your 1050. There you go. There you go. We're in good shape.
In the meantime, looks like, let's see, the movers that we talked about this morning, looks like MSPR is trying to push away from that trend line after moving over it. So that's looking not too bad. Let's see if it can get above 350. That's going to be the big level it needs to really move over here. BGLC, that's breaking its trend line. It's above VWAP. That's looking like it's getting going. Let's see if the volume can continue. Conduit CDT, that doing the opposite. This is not what we want to see. So this one's coming down. Maybe this one is going to break the trend line later, but for now, this one's coming down to a 65 EMA. It also has a support area from the 200 EMA on the 5-minute. That's already provided some support twice this morning, that area.
Okay.
So yeah, AREB halted. RX. This is kind of.
Look at Mullen. Oh my! Did this reverse split again? Did we get it again, guys and gals? A 1 for 100 reverse split effective today. Mullen.
Wow.
Oh, Jay, I tell you what, the biggest miss on this show so far was not following Jay Rice into his Mullen short that just never had to be covered. Unreal.
That's great.
I mean, this stock is just an absolute fraud. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
All right.
Okay. Looking at some bigger stocks here. Nvidia reversing off of that opening pop here. Did see some puts getting bought right out of the. You know what though? It was actually a mixture. It looks like calls were also bought too. TSM. This got asked about. Excuse me, by RL earlier. We are coming up off the or coming down from the highs there, and something seems to be wrong with my scanner here. Let me see which one it is.
A lot of polling here, not just Mullen. Mullen ain't the only one polling. All right, so we have a little bit of a move down here in the SPY, down to the 15% correction level, that area. Looks like we might even be getting a bounce off of it. And we'll see how if that reverses or not. Meanwhile, as far as these movers go, we had MSPR come back underneath that trend line. Still looking at that 65 EMA for some support. Volume seems to have moved away. BGLC popped over VWAP. It's coming back in as well. CDT, after testing the 65 EMA, that popped back up over VWAP, trying to hold above it. AREB still suspended. RXRX printed some newer lows, and JNVR is putting in a doji around the VWAP.
Okay, really good stuff there. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my scanner here. Beg your pardon.
And there was something I was going to look at. Gold and silver flying higher. Yeah, I saw that the gold silver ratio has just absolutely blasted off. So gold going higher, that means silver is going to have a big catch up to do. Both should be going higher. What's the prices of those at today right now? Let's take a look here. Gold is now just under 32.50. Like I said earlier this year, should see 3,500 in gold. Shorting, CA Forceman shorting JPM. We didn't look at any of those.
Yeah, let me go back to I'm sorry, I'm trying to do something else.
No worries. So yeah, because JPM, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, and Morgan Stanley, all those big names, they had earnings this morning. I saw that it looks like a lot of them beat, but I didn't look to see how they guided.
Yeah, the JPM report, from what I saw, again, I didn't really totally go through it, but it did look pretty good here. Beat on the top and the bottom line here. 507 EPS beat the 462 estimate. Sales of 46.014 billion beat the 44 billion. $2 billion beat there. JP Morgan sees fiscal year 25 card services NCO rated about 3.6, net income about 94.5 billion versus the prior view of 94 billion. So a slight hike there on the full year guide, it looks like. See if there's anything else out here that stands out to me. Yeah, it looked like a pretty decent report here. Here's your price action. Looks like we initially went up, came back in, but buyers have since caught this here so far.
Getting a mention here in the chat by Smoke Tuna. FRGT, this is Sprague Technologies, is running.
We've traded FRGT a whole bunch before.
Low float, 2.25 million shares. This is now over 34%. Looks like they are moving on an announcement of an AI an AI lab to enhance their cross-border freight logistics. This could end up being a type of tariff play. On tracking tariffs and things of that nature. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, producer, for the Michigan consumer sentiment coming out at 10 a.m. We'll be wanting to take a look at that. That's been moving the market lately.
MBOT popping here on some pretty decent volume right out of the open there. Actually took out the pre-market high. LabD, your bear biotech ETF, this might be curling up. This had an intraday high yesterday of 1379. So far it's holding here in the pre-market. We'll see if that curls up towards the intraday high from yesterday.
Here's the breakout for CDT over that trend line. That's starting to get going. BGLC is also trying to do it, but starting to put in some wicks that keeps taking it beneath VWAP. I'd be a little bit more careful with BGLC. MSPR kind of doing the same thing as BGLC, only this is now underneath its trend line again. Be careful with those two. It looks like CDT is starting to get going here, though. And we're waiting for AREB to unhalt. It shouldn't be too much longer now before we see that unhalt. Hopefully that takes us up to our 1050 level.
CDT still flashing on your relative volume scanner here. Volume looking pretty good out of the open. 140 is the spot we talked about here in the pre-market. This is about to get hit.
And then JMVR still trying to do some more magic. It sold. Some sellers stepped in, pulled it back down to this high that we were making in the pre-market just before we opened. Found some support there. Hopefully this turns around and takes us back over VWAP and the current intraday high that we have at 63.10.
Good stuff. Good open here. Looking around. Actually, you know what? Let me.
All right, CDT all the way up to 140 before pulling back in.
Bitcoin here also trading higher here. So today is not the day Peter Schiff is going to get his wish and Bitcoin's going to die completely forever and ever. 83,115 here on your Bitcoin futures. That actually looks to take out the high from the morning here. That is at about 8,300, 200. Here we go. We actually just took that right as I was speaking on ramping volume here. Bitcoin definitely risk on right now in Bitcoin, at least looking at the Bitcoin chart.
Woo.
Brett, good morning. It's great to see you again. Welcome back, boss.
Yeah, that's a good point, Street One. They don't really make a whole lot from their goods. That's one of the reasons why I guess they're still in business, because they of the offering of lower priced goods but still higher quality, and that hasn't really resonated too much with shareholders, but lately it has.
Yeah, I'll take the other side of that. I don't think this is going to happen. I think this is I don't think straw man is the right word, but I think this is a non-factor, Sweet One. Not only have you been seeing the executives say that they're going to be able to manage the tariffs, we're not actually seeing any type of impact from that. In fact, if anything, we're seeing more people trade down and go to Costco. So people canceling their memberships, don't see it at all.
That I don't see, but
nope,
I was agreeing with the point about their margins on goods being low.
Okay. They don't make that. Their money is not necessarily made from the items they sell. It is from the memberships.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll take the other side of that. I don't think that's going to happen. And I'd be buying weakness on Costco. I'd be putting my money where my mouth is.
RX moving up to a 65 EMA. And another point about that is that you can get your memberships paid for with the rewards program that they have.
I do it every year. I've never actually come out behind. Between both of my rewards, less the cost of the membership, I'm near plus $1,000 every year. It is a non-factor.
And do me a favor and go to AREB and take a look at the price action. Ta-da!
Boom, right. Boom, boom. Britt, how you doing on this one, Britt?
So I think this is where I'd be done.
Sorry.
This is where I'd be done with AREB. If it can rip higher, it can do whatever it wants. But, because I don't want to take that extra risk, I think this would be the move I'd be happy with. Let me
ask you, if AREB, okay, so if you take that move, boom, booked, gains in your pocket, you're good. If AREB then trades above the 1050 level, maybe builds above, maybe even back tests it, maybe even shows you that this existing trend line here is in place, would you consider rebuying for a second trade on the day or nah?
I'd probably do this. Just eat the popcorn and watch it go.
Okay. Jacob Bear coming in from the top rope with a Macho Man Randy Savage elbow. Costco greater than Sam's Club. Jacob, you could probably throw a couple more greater than equal signs there. Costco is much greater than Sam's Club. Cam agrees. Cam knows. Brittany's doing good. All right.
Excellent. Look at RX. This is now trying to hit some of these lows from the pre-market here before we had the drop at 705.
I'm sorry, which ticker should I be pulling up?
RX.
Got it.
Oh, excellent, Tiger. Excellent.
Arab made my week. Oh, dude, we're gonna start handing out register rings. Tiger, Brittany, Sweet. Who else? Cam with the good call. Jacob with the good call. Wisdom's here, just blazed out of his mind. I mean, we're gonna do it here today. All right, that's gonna be awesome. Another quick question here, Fairchild. I'm sorry, Fairchild asking Ryan, how far is your local Costco, blocks or miles? This is an interesting question. So I have a Costco that is a few blocks from me, and it's not bad. but it's in Cook County, which I affectionately refer to as Crook County. But also the Costco that I choose to go to is actually miles away north. It's farther away than the one that's closer to me. And I go there because the wine selection is outstanding. It is way better than my other Costco. Also, it's in Lake County, so I pay less sales tax and I don't support the crooks that have been ruining this state for decades.
Looking around some of these tickers here that we were talking about this morning. Hopefully, my warning was heated about MSPR and BGLC. They were showing some not so great looking wicks. We did go lower with BGLC, but we haven't broken the pre-market lows. So we are beneath VWAP. MSPR, same thing, trying to get some support from the 65 EMA. CDT, that looking better. That moved over its trend line, got as high as 140 before we started to see a little bit of the sellers come in. That's currently above its VWAP and the trend line, trying to hold above it right now.
Yep. Okay.
And AREB coming down to its VWAP, looking for some support. And RX also with a little bit of a pull as it tries to negotiate its way through this consolidation in the pre-market and after hours.
Here's Tesla. Tesla actually looking like it's trying to trade out of the purple shaded area that we marked as a possible bounce area. This was copied from Mark in terms of like a box where the price is kind of discovering its new bottom. Looks like it's actually trying to break out of there. Also 13, as I'm kind of looking. Mark said, I wish you were here for this. Mark said earlier, he goes, you start using trend lines, eventually you're not even going to have to draw them. You'll just see them on the chart. And I was like, we got a couple of folks that are already like that, actually. So that's pretty sweet. Mark saw the same thing here. Here is one of the trends that we'd be looking at here on Tesla. Remember, we have that bigger trend above it if we're able to get above that.
MSPR and BGLC, they're trying to recover and test their trend lines again. You might want to keep a look at those, or keep an eye on those if you're going to trade them. One of the things I was thinking about posting when Mark had said that, after you look at these charts for a certain number of years, you just start to see them automatically. And I was like, kind of like those obscure images that you just stare at, and eventually you'll see the 3D figure in them.
Oh, Magic Eye.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You know what? Okay, so I used to do those as a kid all of the time, and then I had this teacher. I don't want to say she was a bad person. I don't know if she was a bad or a good person, but she told me one time when I was young that if I kept doing those, eventually my eyes would stay cross-eyed, and that scared the living shit out of me. And I stopped doing Magic Eyes. Then I realized it was a bunch of hogwash. Anyway, Brittany here mentioning mixed martial arts, ticker MMA. This gets $2 million in non-dilutive financing. This ripping to the highs. Looks like it was halted here. Yes, halted here, 195. Was it halted earlier here at this 140 level? And what a move here in MMA.
So looking at some levels here, $2 is a standout level for me. We're pretty much at the edge of that. So whatever happens out of this halt, that's probably end up seeing some selling after a pop. That could certainly happen. But if we do push higher, other levels that I'm seeing are going to be about 240, 265, 285, and probably 360.
Okay. 13 giving you some levels there. Market.
Nor should you line.
Yeah, market. So speaking of trusting it here, market is actually trying to go higher. Here's Tesla. Tesla is ripping up out of that area that we just took a look at. Here's a look at your SPY. We're pretty much just chopping around here. SPY green by about 0.5%, really up off the lows. Sellers, the bears did not have the strength today. I know some of them want to. It did not have the strength, at least not yet. We'll see if that resolves here later in the day. But SPY chart here, not looking terrible. Look across the board here. Amazon higher, Netflix higher, some of the small caps higher. Tesla continues to try and go. VIX down here to 42. Watch if that VIX breaks out of the 40 handle to the downside. I think you could really get some move here in the market. Oil here up about 28 cents. What do you want me to put up? I got to step away for a sec. I'll put up whatever chart you want.
Yeah, I was just going to mention JNVR. That just came out of its halt. The halt was to the downside. It found support at the consolidation from the pre-market from about 8 o'clock until the open. Going to need to see some support here at the very least down at the 65 EMA, which I currently have at about just under 49. It's at 48 and 84 cents. So we could end up going down even more from this current price and finding support down there. be careful with JNPR. This thing moves around a whole lot, and it's very illiquid. Another one to watch. Let's see. It looks like RX is still moving up. This making its way through the consolidation in the pre-market and the after hours. The high from the after hours yesterday was $6. Certainly could get up there with the way this is moving, but there's no promises. CDT, that one came down to that trend line that we drew, trying to hold above it, but the series of upper shadows, the wicks on top of the candles that it's putting in right now is making me think that this is looking a little weak. So I wouldn't be surprised if this broke down. I also wouldn't be surprised if some whale just came in and just bought a whole bunch of shares that sent this higher up to the 146 high from the after hours. So up to you if you want to trade CDT. I don't think I'd want to mess with this one right now. BGLC still having going sideways, still having a hard time getting above that trend line. MSPR, kind of the same thing, even though it's holding above at 65 EMA. And we're just waiting for AREB. Oh, AREB halted to the downside. Ugly. Oh, I'm glad I wasn't in that one.
MMA continuing higher here. 250. What was that? 268 looks like the high.
So I'll take a look at MMA in just a second, but yeah, real quick about AREB.
Yep,
that level was probably the one that I outlined. That's probably the one that you wanted to sell at. Now we're halted to the downside, and I don't know where this goes from here. We could continue to push up some more and try and break this trend line, but I'd be looking for something else at this point. I don't know what AREB's going to do. And then you said MMAs, that's continuing to push up 267. So hitting some of those levels that I had mentioned already. At 265 level, at 260, 265 level was next. So that we just got that. Looking for the 280, 287, 290 area. I think 360 was also after that. So after 290, if we get into the 3 handle, I'd be looking at 360. STFU saying I should keep NAOV on a side chart. This could pop to 8. Let me look and see what that's about. We did have fun with this one before too. I think we were having fun with that one. What, Tuesday? So we were messing with it. All right. So from one of the past levels I have with this one, which is going to be at about 590. That is giving us some support. We just broke through that out of the open, that 590 area. Now we're kind of hanging out above it. Have the 65 EMA below the price, and the price is currently trying to move over the 20.
Which ticker? I'm sorry, man.
This is NAOV.
NAOV.
It's trying to move over its 200 EMA. It's had multiple attempts trying to do that with no success. But if it continues to hammer this, it looks like it could eventually push through it and maybe start closing above it. That's what I would want to see first, is an actual move over the 200 EMA on the 5-minute and start closing above it. That would make it a little more enticing for me. The big problem I have with NAOV is yesterday's price action. That created a lot of consolidation areas that the price is still going to have to work its way through, especially the one between 630 and 670.
Yeah, see it right in here. I think you're absolutely right on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. MSTR ripping here. This up about 5%. Look at this, though. Went right to the trend line that we had identified on here. Boy, trend lines, I think, is the word of the day. It seems to be the theme of the day. You talk about them every day. Mark talked about them today, and we have stocks cooperating with them here today as well. MicroStrategy up about 5% here. Does look like this kind of put in a bottom here about 236, a break and hold above this trend line. I think we can start talking about some higher levels here. 345, 400. Shield your eyes, Bitcoin bears. 444. We'll see if we can end up getting in there.
AREB is open. It opened lower, trying to get back above where the last candle closed, which is about 882. Getting rejected. So not looking great at the moment for AREB. JNBR, that's beneath the CWEP, trying to recapture it. It's starting to look like some of these movers are getting to be pretty unfavorable here. MSPR, that still trying to push over its that trend line, but is printing lower lows now. So I'd be a little bit concerned about that. BGLC kind of doing the same thing, tapping those lows from the pre-market. We had the low of the pre-market was 215, but there were some other levels where it was finding support around 250.
RX here, maybe through this 550, 553 area. We could then probably target the highs from the after-hour session yesterday at 6. RX, nice little volume here. Just kind of going back to what Mark said, I wouldn't necessarily front run this, instead wait for a trigger. MMA, looks like this is kind of stopping here. What's your high print there on MMA? 288? 288 is your high print there on MMA. That's still holding up here, though.
Yeah, I don't know where your VWAP is, but it's still holding above mine, even though it's been printing beneath it. It just seems to go down there, make some prints, and then recapture and try and push higher. So, like I said before, if this is because we've hit pretty much almost every level. This 288 is right about at that 290 level I was mentioning, and if we get into the 3 handle, then there's a really good chance this can go to 360.
CoreWeave here trading higher. Snow trying to curl. Nvidia at the highs. Oxy is lower. Boy, that's been a terrible miss for Warren Buffett, who normally doesn't miss a lot. Tesla here actually looking like this might try another run at that trend line to the highs. Netflix ripping, Apple highs.
I was thinking,
how's the market doing here?
What you were saying with Warren Buffett, I was really thinking about that when I saw his Oxy, and I was like, man, he was buying a lot of this in 21, 22, 23, 24, and but the price is beneath all that now.
Thankfully, he's got billions of dollars. Here's your SPY, by the way. Watch this pre-market high here on SPY. Things can get rolling here. You know, one of the things, correct me if I'm wrong, 13, but weren't we saying yesterday on Happy Hour that it kind of felt like today might be a little bit of a slower day after the crazy week? It's a Friday. Masters is on. Yeah. It kind of seems like maybe we'll get that here.
It's exhaustion and distraction.
Yeah. Exhaustion and distraction. I like that. I don't think we used those terms yesterday, but that's good. That'll do.
This market, I mean, you know, and there was a lot of points being brought up about, you know, throughout this week in Happy Hour about how this market was starting to feel exhausted from the tariffs. So Trump's rhetoric. So that's certainly a thing that's affecting the market. But then, yes, also a big event that takes people away from their trading desk, like the Masters, is certainly going to affect liquidity as well. All right, so ARAB still continuing lower, making coming down to the open from this morning. CDT also lower. A lot of these movers not looking that robust this morning.
Movers not the greatest, to be honest.
This morning, nope.
And you know, here's the other thing. So we talk about some of these ETFs, which have really made great trades here, SQQQ, TQQQ, depending on whatever the market is doing here. If we do get that kind of a back off day where it's a little bit calmer, this trade also is not going to work as well, because this works really well when it becomes extended from that VWAP and then you get the pop back. If we don't get a big extension from the VWAP here, this trade might also be off the books.
You know, Brett,
for today. Sorry, get in there.
Brett, I don't want to discount ICCT at all. We've seen this thing move all week, but you know, we had a plan for this one. It already hit the level we were looking for, and we're not sure if this is going to come back or do anything special like it did earlier this week and last week. But to your point, it is putting an interesting series of wicks down at the bottom here on these candles, these 5-minute candles that we've had so far out of the open this morning. So it could turn back up, but you know, I don't know how high this is going to go, and there's a lot of challenges awaiting upside for this. So it may not get anywhere near some of the levels we've been seeing before.
Just passing through, saying 100% agree. Market makers watching Masters. Can you blame them?
Yeah, they probably already had a great week, so who cares, right?
Yeah. Actually, maybe Ryan needs to do that.
Maybe go take a.
I'm just saying. I mean. On the range, holes 4, 5, and 6, and the featured groups. Let's do the featured groups. By the way, I don't know if there is a stock angle to this somehow, but the Masters website and app is not even close. The best experience for watching a sporting event that I've come across in terms of streaming. Maybe there's a technology behind the streaming that it does. I seeing IBM being advertised on its site. It is phenomenal. There are tons of angles. The delay is hardly anything. It never buffers. It's full HD. It's like that on the app. It's like that on the desktop. It's free. I mean, everything about this entire experience is better than any other sporting. And I'm just wondering now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just wondering if there's any companies that we could dive into. AT&T being advertised here. I'm just wondering, because whatever they're doing, they are doing it well. They are really hitting the screws on the head. Yeah, get in there. Sorry.
So Eli, yeah, thank you for mentioning that. And Clean Slate, same thing. RXRX, here comes 6.
PRTG ripping here up 50%. Don't see any news on this. PRTG, maybe a room pump.
Let me see if I can find out what's going on with that while you look at.
Yeah, I'm looking around FinTwit here to see if there's anything flowing across the wire. Looks like my other trading group is trading RXRX.
Yeah, because that's about to hit 6. So some of these movers this morning, some of the ones that we didn't even cover, really behaving pretty well.
Jane says, Ryan, don't hate me, but I believe Tony Kornheiser once said watching golf is his video Valium. I would never hate you, Jane. Hate is a strong word. It takes a lot for me to hate something. And if you don't abuse people or animals, that's probably not a moniker that I'm going to attach to you, no matter what else you do. That being said, Tony Kornheiser, my opinion of him really dropped during COVID, and I'll leave it at that. As far as the video volume comment, yeah, I get that. I was actually just texting somebody yesterday saying, wow, I'm so much more calm now that the Masters is on. Wiz saying that the Masters app tracking individual shots is laggy. Okay. Stay focused saying the Masters app is IBM based. And yes, it's amazing. Interesting. And I should dive into that and see if there's any other like little nuggets I can pull out from that. But sorry for digressing, 13.
No problem. So the only thing that I see here recently for PRTG are going to be a schedule 14. So there must be some kind of announcement. There's apparently there's a shareholder meeting on June 11th. Okay, so that's probably not it. But there was a 10K that was released at the end of March that might have some news as to why it's moving. But the only other thing I could find with PRTG was that for I believe the first time ever, it has had a 23.67% of the float shorted. Previously, before that,
okay,
never higher than 3%, almost 4%, never higher than that.
Yeah, I can't attribute this. I'm not going to. I appreciate those stats, but I can't attribute this move to anything. At least not yet. Have not seen anything.
It's got to be the short interest. It's got to be the low float. This thing, 1.3 million shares in the float, 23% of that shorted. I have to think that this is a squeeze. I don't see any other news. Maybe there's a catalyst that started this, but I think this is squeezing.
Okay.
Okay. There we go. So there was a catalyst that is not showing up in our news feed. Thank you, STFU.
A selective. The new data demonstrates. Why? How was that?
Yeah, I don't see anything.
I was going to say I don't see. Let me see if we can. And let me see if I can help.
Unless he's referring to the news from March 27th.
That's what I was looking. I was looking to see if maybe it was a rehash. See here.
Port 7.
See this conference that's you're mentioning there, this European Lung Cancer Congress.
Mm-hmm.
This was in Paris, March 26th through 29th.
Yeah.
Like this is over.
Yeah. I don't know if it's that or not, but I can tell you two things that are absolutely happening. It has a high short interest. It has a low float. That's gonna do this kind of price action, but I don't know what started this.
Yeah, I mean, if it was 2 weeks ago, I got to think that that's some lag in there. I'm not sure.
All right. Well, those of you trading RXRX, congratulations. This thing, I think it just tapped 6. Yes, it did.
Wasn't this the one that also got like an investment from Masasan and SoftBank? Let me see if I can find that here. Am I confusing that with something else?
This is the animal testing one. So there's a win for our animal friends. All right. Looking around at some of these other ones, a lot of these movers from this morning still kind of going sideways, if not lower.
Nope. Yep. Yes. Sorry. So back in February, my memory's not terrible. Back in mid-February here, SoftBank via 13F disclosed a 14.67 million share stake in Recursion Pharmaceuticals, ticker RXRX. It was that. Okay. I'm just trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. That's all. RXRX. Hey, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Stopped right at 6.
RXRX had NVIDIA. Thank you for that, Smoke Tuna. That makes a lot more sense as to why this move happened the way it did.
Tesla, big reversal back into the red here and into that support area.
So sweet one. I've thought about this too, and I actually ended up making a point about this in happy hour about how we could end up seeing some U.S. credit rating downgrades happening soon. But they are actually a AA plus now, not a AAA, because I think it was either back in 23 or 22 when we were downgraded. Let me see if I can find when that was, but I believe now that we are AA plus, not AAA anymore.
Trust STFU saying trade ideas is pumping PRTG.
Let's see here. Now, maybe you're right with Moody's, but I think Fitch may have downgraded. So I might be wrong about Moody's, but I think Fitch is the one that downgraded. Because I remember they're seeing a credit downgrade a while back. Let me see here. Just give me a second. I'll find it.
You're good. I'm looking at the Bitcoin came off that high. VIX sitting here 42.81 looks in a real tight range. So I know we're pulling here a little bit on the market, but we're still within that pre-market range. Just until something breaks here or breaks out or down from the range that we currently find ourselves in, I'm going to go ahead and consider it all kind of a non-issue.
Okay, so Fitch did downgrade the U.S. to AA plus from AAA in August 2023. So it was Fitch, not Moody's. I got that wrong.
Moody downgraded the outlook, but remains AAA.
Yeah. Yes.
Good stuff.
Okay, there we
Good
go.
stuff there.
We figured it out, but Sweetwin already knew the answer.
Well, I think he dove in. I think he dove in and figured some stuff out. I think that's somebody that's not afraid of working.
Let's see. Yes, that's when it was. MMA open and bouncing. Yeah.
Let me bring that up here real quick.
Trying to get back up to that VWAP. RX, that one's pulling now after we hit that 6, putting in a series of upper shadows. Be careful with this one. I think that we got what we wanted out of this one. Interestingly, oh, nope, this is still going down. Sorry, I was taking a look at ARIB. I thought it was turning back up, but it's not. Not a lot of things left. I mean, MMA is still moving, so that's great. And to Brett's point about ICCT, you know, we did get a little bit of a turnaround here after we dropped, but you know, just be careful with this one. We've already beaten this one down with the trade plan we had.
Steve here, love this, man. Absolutely love this. Just locked in a 12.6% gain on the Michigan consumer sentiment. Done for the day. I just finished 40 hours for the career today after clocking 2 hours early. So the weekend begins now. One up. Chewbacca's going to celebrate that with you, Steve. Let's effing go. Have a great weekend, boss. Really good stuff.
Get out of here. Have a good weekend.
We don't have to get out of here. I'm just okay. 13. Let's simmer down a little, but enjoy your weekend nonetheless.
I'm going to get out of here when I'm done. I'm going to enjoy my weekend.
Hey. Keyword there, when you're done.
When I'm done. Yeah, you know, sweet one. That could be a while. We could be waiting months or years, probably years.
PRTG knifed into a halt. That halt right at the VWAP too. And by the way, so I know you were just talking about that Michigan consumer sentiment number. I just was congratulating instead of giving it to you. Here you go. Michigan 1-year inflation expectations for April 6.7 versus 5.0. That number is actually a little hot there. Michigan consumer expectations for April 47.2 versus the 50.8 estimate. Michigan consumer sentiment for April 50.8 versus the 54 estimate. All those numbers a little bit light there. 5-year inflation expectation 4.4%. The prior read 4.1%.
Yeah, so
looks like WiseKey, ticker WKEY, shares trading higher after the company announced the Seal coin demonstrated secure off-grid Internet of Things transaction via law enforcement satellites and blockchain. Okay, that seems like kind of a word salad there. That stock's up almost 10%.
Yeah, so you have
Interesting.
consumer sentiment saying that inflation is going higher, but so far
but the inflation number is saying it's going lower.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. But we'll get the ones that the Fed looks at later this month. They'll be looking at the GDP and they'll be looking at PCE, and that's going to be where we're going to want to pay attention to as well, especially that PCE. It's their inflation gauge. Waiting for Amazon call to give me that profit. Get it. All right. So we've had a little bit of a pop here in the SPY. Does this last?
Ryan, I didn't get the invite to Paris. Smoketoon, I don't know what that means. Jay's telling me to go find his comments about the Michigan consumer sentiment number earlier. Here we go. Did you guys see the Michigan consumer sentiment? It's now become a joke.
So I guess Trump signed a major crypto law. I could probably explain why Bitcoin's running.
Oh, what was it? Oh, you know what? That's probably in here. Trump signs major crypto law. Nix's IRS rule targeting DeFi.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, man.
Looks like JNVR still trying to get back above that VWAP. RX, after testing the VWAP, starting to move back higher. Put in a series of overshadows about 15, 20 minutes ago. See if we can take those out. $6, current high of the regular session.
That Michigan survey was conducted before Liberation Day. I wonder what the next one will show.
We're getting March reports. I guess March going into April, because these are for April, because they're expectations, not lagging reports. But yeah,
MMA here holding around $2. What is this Cerebell?
Crow's watching NAOV. You're thinking that we get a breakout of this consolidation here? It certainly looks like it wants to get back above 6. It's at 6, but a move away from it above this 200 EMA.
JNVR actually looks like that wants to move away from its VWAP. Oh, excuse me, my goodness. KMX looks like this might try and go higher.
That one was getting hammered yesterday, right?
KMX?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got really beat down.
What's the daily RSI on that now? Because that could be one of the reasons why it's moving up.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, I got
it. I'll look it up. Got it. So yesterday, our RSI was down to 37. Probably was even lower because we ended up closing higher than our low. The low was down at 63.30. This RSI was probably even closer to maybe it was close to just 30 flat. So yeah, I haven't looked at any of those today STFU, but we can look at them. Are they having 10% plus moves? Yeah, okay. So THTX is up 43%. What's UAME doing? 11%. Okay. Wow, UAME with the breakout run going on here now. Coming up to what is this? 12-year highs. 12 years and 6-month highs. And UAME, fantastic.
Wisdom, I'm sorry, man. The video, whatever you created for me, I will review it off the show. I'm not gonna play something here without reviewing it. I'm sorry, man. I just can't do that.
NAOV, great stuff there. Crow was waiting for this one to move. It looked like it was consolidating. Finally got that move over the 200 EMA, put in new highs for the session. But the high of the pre-market is 880. So see if we end up going there.
Lion asking about Bitcoin. Ryan, did you buy some Ripple last week when it dipped to 168? No, as I told you before, my order there, or my level for Ripple, is 160. It came this close. Didn't get it. I don't think we've bottomed yet in Bitcoin. I'm going to be patient with Bitcoin.
Got that order out there still?
Got both of those orders out there. Also looking for some Solana as well. We'll see if we end up getting that.
All right. Well, I would like to see it go lower because I will pick up more IBIT. Yeah, it's kind of weird, STFU. I wouldn't have thought that either. It seems like it's getting a little bit more attention than normal. Because I thought gold was more of the metal of the week, but antimony it is.
JNVR still flirting with 56 here.
NAOV, that's still moving higher. Slowly, but it's moving. MMA, that's trying to come back up to VWAP. ICCT might be curling. Look for a recapture of VWAP. I have that at 416. Let's see what else is happening here. It looks like AREP's trying to turn around and come back. A lot of these movers are not really moving so much anymore. They're very slow moving. Not going to get a lot of follow through. Watch the volume. If the volume's not there, it's not going to make breakouts over levels that we have here as resistance. Let's see here. How's the SPY doing? What are we doing here with this one? Kind of sideways this morning.
Yep, just as we thought.
Yeah, because inside candle, and even I was yesterday. I was kind of uncertain about which direction we would go, but at least I had an idea of what to look for, depending on which way we go.
And I'm so happy because I felt that, and in the moment yesterday when I was like, Ryan, I was like, you should definitely feel one way or another. You should not feel like you have no edge here. You've been watching this every day, and Tom felt the same way. You felt the same way. Mark Petrino felt the same way. And it's just a reminder that, hey, sometimes the right thing to do is nothing. I know that can be tough for us, but sometimes that is actually the right move. It looks like, at least for me, that was the right move yesterday. Here we are just kind of chopping around. Market makers watching the Masters.
Well, yeah. And would you hold into this weekend?
No.
Yeah. See?
Yeah. Any of those newer swing positions? Absolutely not. No, that's a great point.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Great point.
All right. The market's going to go up and down. Hey, you know what? That's a pretty good prediction, Buffalo by Bicycle. I think you're right.
I think I can give him a register ring for that already. I don't even think we need to see that. Oh, man. CDT coming back in a little bit.
Sonny is asking about RVLGF. That sounds like an OTC. Let's take a look.
Yeah, you start throwing those F's in there.
Well, it's
like an OCT.
Those five letter tickers usually they are OTC, and this one is Revival Gold. I have not heard about this gold company. Let's see what it's about. OTC penny stock, 35 cents current price. I don't have a float reading. Let's see if I can find one here. It's this is not a problem for me to take a look at because I'm not trading anything. Nothing really is interesting to me right at the moment. So not a problem to do this. Take a look at some of these names. So the float read that I have is 80 million. That's for my broker. So that's a heavier float, a little thicker than we're used to trading. Not going to see big outsized moves happen very quickly with this one, I would imagine. About $1 million in the bank. loses over 2 a quarter. At least that's what it was last quarter that they reported. This appears to be a Canadian company. Operates in the Western United States, so must not be. No, it is headquartered in Canada, Toronto, Canada. They have a development office in Salmon, Ohio. Let's take a look here at the chart. Now that I have an idea of what this company is. This has been, well, with the way gold's been going, I guess I can't be too surprised that this has been moving up nicely, really nicely as of this year. This I don't have much data beyond the beginning of this year either. Is this a new issue? No, must be a chart thing. Well, let's see here. This is getting pretty extended. It was more extended earlier this morning, but it's since come down. What does the daily chart tell us? 75 RSI coming into consolidation from the summer of 2023. This might see some resistance. About
which ticker are you looking at? I'm sorry, I was
still looking at RVLGF, the Revival Gold. It's looking like you might have a pretty good amount of resistance at 40 cents if this continues to move higher. I'm a little skeptical of how much higher this is going to go at this stage because it's already had a really good move out of its 500-day SMA. But the RSI is now over 75, and that's very extended. But if it does continue to push up, I'd be looking at 40 cents as the next big area of resistance. If you draw a line there and look to the left, you can see how that area, that particular level, has been a support and resistance level. So that's why I like that. Hopefully that's helpful to you. I'm sorry, I didn't even remember who asked about that, but hopefully that's helpful to you. Sunny. All right, Quantum Vortex Hood has been breaking the downward trend line to the upside. Well, good. It's breaking trend. That's what you want to see.
Some short instruments appear on the scanner here.
Oh, good. Let's see price action today with SPY. So that that really just started coming down after the consumer sentiment. It's time to look at some of the directional ETFs. I mean, if I'm going to continue doing anything today,
I was going to say that's what's coming up now on the scanner too. Like it's not even just us. It's like that's just this THTX, MMA. I'm not even sure if there's other buys here. FRGT. Those are the only stocks kind of on this list here. BLGC, really good call with the trend line that never got knocked down or taken out. Northern Media asking us about NVIDIA here. NVIDIA, same deal. There's really nothing has changed here from the last several times that we've looked at it. Let me see if I can get this for you right on here. NVIDIA currently in a downtrend since the end of last year. It's been very orderly, this downtrend. There's been pretty much no panic, despite what you might see on television. We recently, when we broke out of the bottom end of this channel, we actually tested the 500-day, came right back to the middle of the channel. We seem to be hanging out right there. I would say is what I'm looking for here. If you're, I don't think there's a trade here, but if you're looking for this, then I would basically just be looking at the different channels here. I've been predicting spots when we have momentum to the downside here. I basically look to the bottom end of the channel. I'd put that here, maybe 92, 93 is a possible support.
I've got levels here that I've had for a while. They're working pretty well. Here they are. 105, 113, 117.
105, 113, 117. Okay.
Yep. And moving averages are also playing a big part in the price action as well. Currently the 20-day SMA is the high that we've had today.
And we death crossed on Wednesday, March 19th. I'm not sure that this thing has really put in enough downside action. So if I had to bet today, I would bet that it just follows this trend line down.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to see a whole lot more upside in this one. It's still looking kind of weak to me. Plus, you have that 50-day SMA that has been, a bit of a pissant as well.
Pissant.
Crow saying HEPA, $1 in the cards. Smoke Tuna is also mentioning that AI names are appearing on the scanner today. So are these, when you say the AI names, these are all the ones that, the junky ones like BBAI and CXAI, those kind of names, like the ones that have AI in the name? Is that the ones you're referring to, or like the stronger ones that we're talking about? Bond market sinking kind of fast. All right. Oh, look at SQQQ go. Woohoo!
Are we getting enough? Did we have enough extension to actually buy this one? Not really. What are we looking at on the TQQQ? VWAP here, 46.39. This is almost 2 points. Maybe here on TQQQ. God, if this came in closer to like 44, I think that might actually work.
So one, AREB is moving, says RL. We can take a look at that. But one thing that I was watching for yesterday, that when I went long TQQQ is, and I know it's not the same index, but I was watching the SPY and it was coming down to the 500-day SMA, and I thought that was a pretty interesting area for a market reversal, and it was wonderful. I started adding TQQQ as it approached that, and when it reversed, I sold into it. It was a really fun trade.
This is what I mean. Like, so yesterday was a really good example of how great this actually was for a trade. Like this is the biggest move that we've really seen here today, and look how it pales in comparison to what we saw yesterday. Now, this might be one to watch here. Okay, set up here. Maybe the market continues to sell off here. TQQQ continues to plunge here. We get enough extension away from the VWAP. Maybe this can be your buyable trigger then. Just kind of looking at this yesterday. Here was your VWAP 46.91. At the low here, it was 41.67. So we got a 5-point spread between the price and the VWAP. That pretty much bounced right back to the VWAP, regressed right back to the mean. 13, that was a killer trade on your part yesterday.
It was thank you. It was a good time.
Yeah.
I had fun.
It was a good time. I had fun. That's your quote. That's your quote, folks.
Back to AREB, since we were talking about it. Thanks, RL. That is moving back up, getting a series of green candles on the 5-minute chart, making its way back up to VWAP. I do see a pretty relatively.
God, look at the 1050 spot that you.
Yeah. It went up to 1047, just shy of that, but we were talking about that area with 5.
You even said to me you could make it 1047 if you want, and that's where it went.
But I wasn't trying to call for it.
I know, but sometimes it's just so ridiculous. It's like it just works.
Those two things right there. It looked like a good spot. I was kind of thinking that the trend line and that level, it's like, why not? And we may even get a higher print now. We could even draw another horizontal line from some of the other highs from yesterday, like 1140. Maybe if we do come back up here, and I don't know if we will, but if we do come back up here, break over VWAP and go on another run to test this trend line, we could possibly try that later on today when the trend line's closer to 1140. Just mark the levels off.
Yeah, really good stuff there. Tom, news just rots your brain, man. Your best bet is to turn it off. Doesn't matter what it is. Market continuing to move down here. That actually sets us up for this possible TQQQ. So let me ask you, 13, do you want to see like a volume? Do you have a specific level here that you'd be looking at for one of these trades here today? Because I just kind of think that we might not really have a big move in either direction today. Maybe volume?
Yeah, I was going to say the volume doesn't appear to really be there right now to give us a big directional move that's going to give us an oversold or bought area that we can jump into. Because if you look at the price action on SPY, we've just kind of been hanging out right around the 15% correction level and trying to get above 525 to no avail. So it seems like we're just a little bit range bound right now, and I don't know how well some of these directional ETFs would be for such a small range. I mean, you could try, but if it continues to be range bound, then just go to the bottom of pick it up when it gets to the bottom of one range and sell when it gets to the top of the other. That's about all you can do. But this not enough range. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And that's kind of that's kind of the calculus that I'm trying to play here. I mean, I guess 44 would be a level that I'm looking at, but more so, look what we had yesterday, right? Like we had the market kept selling off, but when it started to really move, that volume accelerated. If I don't see that type of behavior here, forget the actual numbers for a sec. If I don't see that same type of like expanding volume here, I'm just not sure that this is the right trade to make. I mean, maybe it still works though. Maybe it still works. Mullen seems. Oh man, that was good. That was I got it right there because you dropped that one right at the perfect spot.
Yeah, I don't think really anybody wants to hold going into this weekend. Who knows?
Ryan is in SQQQ. No, I'm not.
This
I'm in. Oh, okay. I was like, oh, sorry, man. I was like, what on earth are you talking about? No, I'm not holding any of those over the weekend. I mean, I guess maybe if something happens around the close, that kind of changes my opinion on that. Maybe I would. S&P 500 here down to the lows of the day. It's actually at the bottom of the standard deviation band for the VWAP. We're right at those pre-market lows. Actually, I think we broke them here. Sorry, I don't need to look at a different chart. We can put them on the chart that we're sharing here. We did. Just barely broke those pre-market lows. Next spot here, 518. And then again on the TQQQ, if that volume starts to expand, I'm gonna watch this one here. Let me know if you need me to change this.
And then also keep an eye on the RSI for the time frame that you're watching. One of the things that I was doing yesterday was, because I like using the 5 minute.
Sure.
When we were really selling off yesterday, we were getting to such an oversold position, and it took a while because I was buying at a certain point when it was still going down. Not something you should do when you're day trading, but I knew what I was doing because I was certain there was a reversal coming soon. It was just getting so oversold that it was just getting too attractive to not take a little stake in it. Got under 20 RSI. That's way oversold. It's for an index ETF. So that was the catalyst there for me. It was got a lot of movement down, low RSI, hitting some levels. Thought, why not? Seemed like a good idea. So I want to see some lower RSI.
Yeah.
I don't think we're quite there yet.
All right, Crow here. We're holding Faz Yang UVIX over the weekend. So you're looking for some downside stuff over the weekend. You're looking for volatility to increase and China to be at the center of that.
SPFU, you're not the only one.
Jay Wild.
Hey, Jay Wild. I've been talking to a lot of people that do not want to do swings at all. They're day trades.
Yep.
Or they're very long-term investing.
Yep. That's my big issue here. I don't feel. I'm just gonna let it settle out. I'll pick my spots. I'll be as tactical as I can, but I'm not in a rush, especially on a Friday.
Hey, get it, CA Forsman. Doing well.
Kathy here saying, I've held PSQ and SQQQ for several weeks. That's impressive. I'm normally in and out of those. That's really impressive. Glad you have gains to show for that. I'm up 8% and 17% respectively. Let me know if you have a stop on that, or would you not let that go red? How do you manage your current positions? Bad Fridays seem to lead to bad Mondays. Yeah, we talked about that last week. The market rarely bottoms on a Friday. So if you're getting pounded and it's weak, you might see that again on Monday.
I think that's true for at least the open on Monday.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Sweet One says, what if Trump says China called? Where does the price go? Well, I mean, obviously I don't, the substance of whatever that meeting or whatever that call is something, that will matter in that. But I would imagine you get any talk about a Chinese deal in here that Trump is happy about, it's going to be risk on. It's going to be risk on, I think.
Yeah. In terms of where does it go, if Trump says China called, I don't think that resolves anything. So there's going to be a limit to how high it goes up, but I certainly think the market would go up off that. I just don't know where exactly it would go, but I don't think we're going to rip to new all-time highs off of that. I still think there's going to be a lower bottom coming up. All of these calls and not when actual because the trade, it's not going to happen overnight. These are not. But there are some countries that they're in what's the word?
Advanced talks.
Yes, advanced talks. Exactly. Thank you. So there is some progress being made. We could be seeing some results of those talks as early as this month. So I think it's just a matter of stay tuned when it comes to those countries. We will get an announcement though by Trump that so-and-so country made a deal, and it's not going to be China, but it'll be like Japan made a deal or Vietnam made a deal. Those are all going to probably have market moving implications in a positive way.
I think the ones that they're advanced on are South Korea, India, Japan, and I don't know where they stand with the EU. I guess they're ahead of where I thought they would be with the EU, but we'll see.
All very important, probably some of the most important entities that you want to have progress on.
Yeah. And like I said before, I'm going to reiterate it. Right now is the strongest it will be for China. The second any of these countries start making deals that only benefits the US and only hurts China. The more countries that the more countries that make deals, the more that happens, that hurts any other country that's not making a deal.
Hey, Wes, you enjoy yourself in the Masters and that Bloody Mary. Take care, man. See you on Monday.
Yeah, who did you bet, Wes, for the Masters? Enjoy it. I'm jealous.
And take care to you too, Wisdom.
Take care, Wisdom. I'll review your thing, man. I'm sorry.
I hope everybody that's leaving had a good week and have an even greater weekend.
So here we go. TQQQ bounced from that 44 and change again. How could I have predicted that's exactly where the level was? Well, we didn't get any of the expanding volume. The 44 level looked all right. We never really got back down there. Here we are, still in that range.
All right. Let's see. Things really do seem to have slowed down. You think Vietnam is the best position to benefit from the China being stuck? Oh, I absolutely believe that as well. They're eating China's lunch right now.
And if you get a deal with them on top of that, that's just going to ramp that.
Yeah, I already think that we started to see some movement in the Vietnam ETFs when this whole thing started. I think it was 2023 or maybe it was last year. But we started to see some of the cracks forming in the relationship between China and the U.S. And we started moving some supply chains out of China. They were going right to Vietnam, and I think it was help me out with this one. I'm trying to think of which ones that they were, but I thought Foxconn was one of them that was moving out of China into Vietnam. Maybe I'm wrong about that though.
I don't think so, because don't they rely on like slave labor at Foxconn? You might be right about that though. Maybe I'm totally wrong on that. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look that up. 13. I'm sorry, can't help it.
No worries. Smoke to the saying THTX cooking. Lion, take care. Great day.
Done for the day already, huh?
Hey, some of us are.
No, I get it. Like that. Sorry, maybe that came off wrong. That's not a criticism. I'm saying that it kind of does look a little dry out here. Like I get it, and it's a Friday on top of that, a Masters Friday. So I get it. No shade.
Yeah, CDT, that actually just went down to $1. This is the kind of movement you want to see in the SPY, so we can pick up some of these directional ETFs. This is a movement you want to see. That's CDT's RSI is now under 30. I'm not suggesting anybody jump into CDT at this point. It's under $1, but this is the movement we want to see in some of these directional ETFs. That'd be a good time.
THTX looking like this might try and pop its high again. PRTG. So that what were you guys calling it? I stuttered there. Sorry about that. What I did it again. Damn it, Ryan. Wake up. You guys are talking about trade ideas pumping this. That's the word that you folks used. Look at that. We came right off that high. Settled here at about a 50% retracement. Again, nothing going on here with PRTG. Hopefully none of you got caught in that thing. I don't know if this is going to get rolling again either.
It's just dry right now.
It is dry. And even like the option scanner, and maybe this picks up, but maybe not.
What are the catalysts we have coming up? We have, I think this market kind of needs a Truth Social post at this point.
Can we have like a relaxing day? Like, do we really need to do that?
That's what weekends are for.
Oh, by the way, speaking of weekends and next week is a truncated week. Remember, next Friday is Good Friday. So the market is closed and there is no show that day either while we're talking about it.
Long weekend.
Boy, I could really use that.
I wonder what that's going to do with the market. A long weekend. There could be so many different things that happen over the Easter weekend.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I mean, that is going to be a point where Trump will speak. They have a White House event every year. He will say something. Earnings estimates are dropping 5%, which is a little bit shicey compared to reality. I mean, now is this the estimate for what's coming up with this earnings season, or is this what the expectation for guidance is going to be like? I guess sorry to be a stickler about this one, Shoot one. I'm just kind of curious about the figure you're giving there. Still have some movement up here in the SPY. That's trying to get back up over 525. But eggs, yes, that's right. I don't know if anybody saw that the price of eggs had hit a new high, but I really haven't been feeling the effects of that. Apparently, it's over $6 a dozen now.
I don't know. I think at the high, I think I paid $7 for 18 of them. And last week, I actually re-upped on them. I think it was like $5 for 18 at Costco. I'm not feeling that either.
And I think that was also the spike in the price because of the investigation into some of those farms. I saw some headline about an investigation that was causing it to run. So sorry for the lack of info there on that one. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Thank you, sweet one. Hey, that's actually a good point, Jane. Thank you.
Eggs historically high around Easter.
Excellent.
1 hour loop says it's $4 a dozen right now.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like, where is this place that's selling them for over $6 a dozen? Yes, and that's true, Pete. We are, because there is another holiday in the same area of that of Easter. Yeah, we're all
Wisdom holiday. Should we call it that?
Well, hey, it's funny that Jesus was risen around that time, don't you think?
Oh my heavens to Betsy! If anyone knew, that's wild. I can't wait for. I tell you what, I can't wait for Easter because every year it is brisket time.
Oh yeah, it's totally. Actually, we're doing a boil at my wife's parents' place on Sunday.
There you go.
Sunday.
There you go.
It's gonna be good. I'll take pictures, folks. Don't worry. Yeah, you know what? That's not a bad idea, Mike. Putting eggs in your 401k might actually be a good idea. I'm just kidding. Let's see, new YouTube. Oh, it's okay. That's a poll for you guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone should vote. Y'all are like, nah.
Yeah. So thank you, Jay Rice. Thank you, Jay Rice, for that. Mentioning CALM, Countering Foods. This is the egg company, basically, and I say "the" in quotes because man, do they produce them. But yeah, the DOJ announced investigation. Yep, I think that's what I was referring to.
Looking around here, boy, God, it is not even like. I know. I'm probably going to regret saying this. I don't even see people fighting on Twitter. Like normally, I see people fighting. I see a bunch of stuff going on. It just seems dead. Everything seems quiet.
Oh man, it's a great time for some kind of tweet or PR. It's just a really good time, and it feels like there's not a lot of eyes on the market right now, doesn't it?
It doesn't. It really doesn't. I mean, you look at the spot. Look at this. Here, I'll put it up here. First of all, JPM reported earnings, a really good earnings report here today. It's up 2.5%. It's basically not even moving. Here's your SPY chart. We're just pinned. I mean, like, look at this. After what we just saw these last few days, look at what we're doing today. I mean, it is a complete reversion of what we have seen this week, and I'm not complaining.
But the Masters.
Hey, maybe that's all it took was a perfectly manicured golf course and major golf championship to get everybody to calm down. You know what I would love to see from over the weekend? I'd love to see pictures surface of President Xi and Trump at Mar-a-Lago golfing together. If I saw that, I might even have to. I mean, I don't know what I would do. Okay, but that's what I'd really like to see.
If I get 200 par, I'll take off 50% tariffs. How about that? That's what they're talking about.
Oh man, can you imagine? Can you imagine tariff deals being bet on golf holes? Oh, that would be something else.
The really interesting thing about the SPY here is this W formation. I don't know if it's going to resolve, but man, would that be interesting if it did. And by resolve, that means it's going to go higher. Just a really interesting, double bottom that you really can't see on the daily chart too well. But when you look at the smaller time frames, it becomes clearer. There was a bit of a double bottom so far in early April.
I blindly voted for Scotty. Jane, you did pretty well with your blind vote then.
Oh, 100% Fairchild. We're in this market now. We're in this market of it's going to have outsized moves in both directions. We're starting to get into the summer where it's going to be even choppier. I think we're going to have some really good day trading this year. I think it's going to have enough wild moves for us to have a great time.
And I mean, to Northern Media's point here, there's no shot. So we got this 125% tariff headline here this morning. The market shook it off, just Taylor Swift style, gave no F's about it. And so wouldn't it be fitting, Northern Media, if we get through the entire day, just we're kind of range bound here, we're pinned, and then all of a sudden, right around 4, you start getting some truth post or some Trump tweet or something like that just throws everything into all types of hell. I could totally see that. I'll be busy at that point then. I'll be busy. Have your limits out. Have your limit orders out.
That's not great, Jay. But I don't own it, so what do I care?
I mean, the whole Mullen thing, like, it's now just become laughable. And like, I think back to the time where I was attacked on Twitter for saying that this company was a fraud. I was attacked. I never had those guys come back. Why do you think that is?
Why you're not attacked anymore?
About Mullen, yeah.
Oh, probably because they realized they were wrong and you were right.
I don't know if
just guessing though.
Yeah. Okay. We'll leave it at that. That's actually a nice. We'll be a glass half full type thing here.
Yeah. So STFU range bound like DG for the last 2 days. So DG actually, that one had a nice run up to what was it, 98. But that thing was so extended. It was very overbought, getting over 75 RSI at one point. This thing really did need to cool off. We've since fallen back beneath the 200-day SMA, getting some support from the 20-day SMA and the 85 handle. Current formation that it's putting in here makes me think this could end up going beneath 85, but I don't think it's going to go lower than 80. I wouldn't expect that. It could, but I don't think it will. I think this one's got too much of a good story going on. It's kind of a recession play. I think that we're going to end up seeing this come back up through the 200-day SMA at some point. Couldn't say exactly when. Still think we need to maybe experience a little bit more cooling, but I think this is going to end up being over $100 in the future.
I would love to be able to get another opportunity to add this around 80. I think that if it did print 85.13, I'd probably take a look at it for maybe a nibble there. But the actual price level that I want to try and reload for that move over 100 is probably 80. And to your point, I agree with you. I don't think it goes through it to the downside. I think that's a pretty good level to trade against.
Mm-hmm. That 80 is, and then you have the 50-day SMA coming right up to that too. So
well, these are my EMA charts. If I go to my SMA chart here, let me do that real quick, just so we can all kind of look at the same thing. Here's what you're talking about. Let me get that in. Here you go.
Yeah.
These are your SMAs.
Yeah. So that yellow SMA, that's down right about where 80 is.
That's
that,
50.
That value of 79.61. By the time it does get up to 80, that'll probably be Tuesday, maybe Monday.
So. Jay here saying 2 years ago you had some morons, we call them maroons around here, saying Mullen was going to 100. It was those maroons that were in my mentions telling me what a fraud and fool I was for saying that Mullen was a fraud. It is what it is, folks. It is what it is.
Fairchild, I believe that is what we are seeing, a coordinated, well-controlled sell-off. There was maybe one instance where
I don't think we're seeing a sell-off today.
Well, I mean, not today, but I'm just in the market.
Overall, yeah.
I think there was one situation where you saw it yesterday, where there was a forced liquidation of treasuries. But I think aside from that, it's been mostly and largely a organized sell-off.
My God, the galleries at Augusta are so gigantic. One day I'll be there.
Yeah, I don't know, Jay Rice. I think I don't know that anybody's really going to be pressing their luck. There may be some folks that are going to try to take some risks, but why would you want to when a single Truth Social post could break your account?
Well, Pete's giving you the other side of that. Any market that depends on a tweet or a Truth Social post, Pete, I'm sorry, I'm adding that in because 13 just said it, is in trouble. So there you go. There's the bear case. He thinks as long as that's the setup that you're in, this is in trouble. We'll see. Let us know if you're short.
All it takes is one event.
All it takes is one event. Also, one of the best things that I've ever been told regarding trying to play like some of the broader market and the movement back and forth, it seems simple, but man, oh man, the more I think back to some of the trading and how I positioned myself, especially around Fridays, never short a dull market. And if we get a dull day here today, I don't think that's a shortable trigger or setup, even if you think there's going to be trouble over the weekend. Because the opposite, the other side of the coin there is that you saw it earlier. You saw it on Wednesday. If you were short on Wednesday, you got absolutely taken to the woodshed. And I don't know that people are going to necessarily put themselves in that position again.
The dollar hasn't been this low. The DXY hasn't been this low since July of 23.
Jay Rice saying, Ryan, the galleries is much smaller than the Ryder Cup and Open. They limit tickets. God, I tell you what, you are probably right. You know more about that than I do, but man, they just panned, and I was like, that is a sea of people. That is a humongous sea of people. All right, you got some. You guys were waiting for breaking news. Here it is. Breaking news: President Trump just called for making daylight savings time permanent.
So are we going to settle with the fallback or spring forward?
It doesn't matter. We're not going to change the damn clocks anymore, guys. I mean, come on. I don't care which one it is. Stop taking an hour away from me once a year. It makes me want to go crazy.
We'll get it back later.
But that day, though, oh, man. And I'll tell you something else. Early risers and early birds, they are the most affected by that change. The most affected. Sorry, folks. I'm sorry that wasn't the tweet that we were all looking for to really kick things into gear.
Consumer sentiment crashes to 3-year lows as inflation expectations spike to 1981 highs. All right. Looks like everybody, including the Fed, is expecting higher inflation. So far, it's not what the reports are showing.
Northern here missed this, but at 4 a.m., Bloomberg reports China says the 125% is their tariff ceiling, and they won't go any higher despite reactions. Trump is quiet because his team is figuring out how to respond today. Absolutely not. His team hasn't been quiet. Just yesterday, they were floating removing Chinese stocks from the market.
Yeah.
I don't think that has anything to do with figuring out how that. This is all coordinated. This is not a response. This is China's in this position because Trump put them there. Make no mistake about it.
I don't think that Trump's trying to figure anything out or how to respond. I already think they know what they're going to do.
Bingo.
We don't know, but we're certainly expecting something. Now, I don't know how good of an idea it was to say 125% is the ceiling and they won't go any higher. I think that may be revealing a little too much, but I get the other side of announcing that. I kind of do. But yeah, there's that other point then that Mike's making about they're going to just devalue their currency.
They were warned not to do that.
It's okay. They're not going to listen.
I know. I said that tongue in cheek to be clear. But Jay Rice, love this here. Believe it or not, if we close here, the SPY is up 200 handles this week. Pete, I'm not worshiping anyone. I'm just looking at what's going on.
I didn't vote for him. I don't like him. Chinese minister, they can certainly hurt it. I don't know about destroying.
Yeah,
they can certainly cause a lot of pain, but
I don't buy any argument that China has more leverage than the U.S. No chance. No chance.
They can certainly, absolutely, 100% cause pain, 100%. But they won't be able to take the U.S. down with selling their bonds and mortgage-backed securities.
Tell you what, here, 13, your AREB call. Looking to be even crispier since we've got no follow through at all after it went right to the level we talked about. Literally went right there, and then nothing else happened. Amazing.
There could still be more later on in the afternoon. I have to at least say that that's a possibility because it's been happening so many times where some of these movers, they do really well in the morning, and they just do absolutely crap during the lunch hour and until the afternoon, and then they just seem to come back. That certainly could be the case with AREB. There's no guarantee, though. Even with all these other movers we were looking, they could certainly do that same thing, but there's no guarantee. You just have to watch and pay attention and see what they do. And if it looks like they're starting to turn up or they're starting to gain some volume, this volume expansion, then you may have something going on here. We could, that provides a trade for you. But that whole thing in the morning. I don't know that I'd be interested in AREB at this point. It doesn't look like it's coming back up today. But if you think it will, don't let me stop you from trading. It certainly could provide some higher levels from where it's at right now. But I don't know that it's going to break over that 1050 again.
Kev, take care of yourself, man. Crazy week. Get some rest. We'll be back at this next week.
Yeah. It's going to be a good time, too.
Yeah, Jay, it's amazing we didn't hear a whole lot about the decreasing inflation prints, huh? Shocking. How's MMA still doing here? Oh, never mind. That gave it all up.
Take care, Jaboni. And Kevin. All right, so...
Tesla's still in that zone that we flagged out here. Oh, yeah. And by the way, coming up here real quick, we got about 4 minutes. I had mentioned to you earlier, no Anne Marie. She's much earned travel and vacation. So no Anne Marie. We are going to have Sandy, and she's starting here as soon as we're done here. So 4 more minutes. We'll bring her on and see what she's looking at. Got more content for you here today. Don't you worry.
Trump tariff turmoil hits Value Acts Amazon stake.
Is that a news headline that just came out here?
That came out earlier this morning.
Okay, so Amazon's not really responding to that or anything at the moment?
No, I'm just kind of reading things out loud that we really didn't talk about, so just kind of blurted that out. And it's kind of looking around and see what's going on, because this market is sleepy.
Yeah. Tom, take care of yourself. Pete, no one can predict anything right now. Worldwide tariffs haven't been a thing since the 30s, and no one knows what even a single quarter will do to most U.S. businesses. I will agree here. It is very difficult to predict anything right now. And I also think that anyone that's not a part of the administration that says, I know exactly what's going to happen, has no effing idea what's going to happen. So I'm with you on that part 100%. And it is actually a different time. And I can't help it. Just part of my personality. I'm going to remain glass half full optimistic on that. Have a great weekend, Hellcat.
Take care, Hellcat.
STFU. Tom.
Yeah, Clarence, I'd like to see that as well. He's looking for another multi-day runner on Monday. So
I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Clarence is locked in right now. You'd love to see it.
Just kind of looking around here. Maybe it's about that time.
You want to give your closing outlook here for the week? I was just looking at Twitter there to see if anything else was going on. Didn't really see much.
I think it's time for Sandy to tell us what she's thinking. So let me just wrap this up here saying, hey, folks, what a fun week this has been. Lots of back and forth, ups and downs, and all arounds. Let's see if we can have some more of that next week. We'll make some more money, and we'll have a great time. Until then, enjoy the Masters. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you then.
Yeah.
Bye, folks.
Yeah, really good stuff here. I echo a lot of what you're saying. STFU here sending us out. It's been a good week. Sharing the wealth. It has been a good week. Despite the craziness, it's been a good week. I know we've had fun here, and we look to do it again next week. So all of the help, all of the contribution here today, it's been great. 13, do me a favor, man. Enjoy your weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Have a good one. We'll see you next week. All right.
See ya.
All right, that is 13, and I'm left with the Masters leaderboard producer. I am so happy that you did that. I'm so happy that you created that. Okay, final results for this poll, by the way. Who will win the Masters? 40% of you said Rory, 28% of you said a PGA player, 24% of you said Scotty, and 7% of you said a live player. So we'll see how that shakes out. Okay, folks, enough of this. Let's go ahead and close that leaderboard off, and let's give a warm welcome here to Sandy. Let's see how she's doing. Sandy, how you doing here today? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to start out here with a thank you for being flexible. With Anne-Marie not here, we really appreciate you stepping up and filling the gap here. What do you got coming up on your show?
I think we're going to just take a look at the markets and then maybe focus in on TSM, Netflix, and Apple. See what we can do maybe with an automated trade.
All right, that sounds perfect. It's almost like you were watching earlier because TSM, Netflix, you said Netflix, right?
Yes.
And Apple? TSM, yeah. Netflix, and Apple were all stocks that were asked about early. This is going to be perfect. Folks, option trading made simple with Sandy starts right now.
Welcome back, traders. This is Sandra with Trading Made Simple. I'm here to show you short-term proven strategies. People think trading is a one-size-fits-all market. It's not. We live trade and train daily. Let's talk trading.
Morning, Benzinga. I hope you guys are having a great Friday. Looks like we have had a market, haven't we? Now, when looking at Market Watch, I'm on Thinkorswim platform right now. And when looking at the Market Watch, you can kind of see where we're at, right? So oftentimes, really nice to just take a quick view at the Market Watch, visualize, and you can just automatically kind of just scan the US market and go, okay, what are we looking at here, right? So Amazon's down. I remember Ryan or somebody was just saying something about some news events. So we got NVIDIA and Apple, Google, JPM, AVGO. You could see the ones that are really popping off. But I have to tell you, everything is pretty much kind of either flat or bearish here. And it's been some crazy markets. And let's go over those. And then we'll take a look at some stocks. And maybe we can get a automated trade on for the weekend, right? For next week. So as we look at SPY, we're flat. We're down 63 cents. But look at the VIX here, guys. Now, I typically just use a label just to have some real estate on the chart, right? And right now, the VIX is almost at 45. Let's take a look at a VIX chart and kind of go over that. Now, the VIX is a fear gauge. So this really is just identifying, right? How traders, institutions are feeling about the market. And right now it's fearful. It's really, really high. Now, the gauge is typically around 20. So above 20, people start looking at the market a little scary. Now, when it's below 20, this is where people really want to get into the market and basically ride the market highs, right? So right now, we've experienced some pretty explosive lows, and because of that, the market has been fearful. Now, if we look at the VIX on a day chart, and you can actually look at this just as if it was a regular chart, just go to VIX, and you could kind of see right now that momentum is still high on the VIX. Now, remember, this is an opposite correlation, right? Contrarian view of it. So as we look at this opposite correlation and we see that momentum is still strong, we had a little pop here with this big engulfing red candle. And then after that pop, we've kind of settled down and just going sideways right here. So if you were looking to participate in the market, you would say, hey, I really want the VIX to break below that zero line, right? To go and become bearish, because as the VIX is bearish, the market is bullish. So if you can keep an eye on the VIX, it's a really nice indicator to help you with like some supporting evidence, some confluence in the market to say, hey, where are we at here? Well, we're still really fearful. Now, we have a lot of news events. The market right now is really on to the tariff news events, the changes in tariff, the president's tweets, and so on and so forth. And so because of that, we can get some pretty huge volatile swings, right? Not only to the upside, as in the other days, we're putting a pause on most of the tariffs, but also to the downside, maybe with retaliation or some sort of conversation going back and forth with the countries. So this is a really volatile time. You need to be quick and decisive. And what better way to be quick and decisive but with automation? Because automation could get you in and out before you even have a thought in your mind of what you want to do to reevaluate or assess your game plan. The nice thing about automation is you create the game plan up front. You know exactly what you're going to do, and then you just program it in and let it do it for you. And of course, everything that we do at TMS is always about risk-defined trades, right? So we're defining the risk up front, don't have to worry about it, and then just set it and forget it, basically. So as we take a look at the VIX, you could see my little buy signal here on a day. People still expect the VIX to go up. And if we look at this on a smaller time period, let's take a look. VIX is still above the zero line, as if you were day trading, right? Let's say you wanted to put on a day trade, maybe with some automation. You could take a look at the VIX and go, oh, VIX is popping. If VIX is popping, the market's going down. So let's go ahead and take a look at SPY on the same time frame, and SPY is going down. Just when we started this program, we were down 64 cents. And with that little commentary on VIX, we're now down $2.31. And that is how you could utilize VIX as an indicator, right? An indicator that could really help you identify where the market might be going and how much fear is in the market. So remember now, when volatility is high, option pricing is expensive. Okay, so that's why oftentimes, if you're an advanced trader and you like to sell premium, right? This is your perfect opportunity to be in the market, because premium right now is really high. It's expensive. Options are expensive, so you want to sell them. So you could be either a buyer or a seller. So let's take a look now at some just overall view on a daily here. Right now this morning we were chopping. Look at how volatile we are. This was this week's high and low, right? Based on what the market makers assumed the movement was going to be on the high side and on the low side. And you can get that from the trade tab, guys. If you go over to the trade tab as an example, you could look at any of your option contracts, look right over here on the right-hand side, and you could see what the expected move is going to be. $11, $21 for the week after on the 14th, etc. So for today, it was $11. We're still very shy of that, right? We're only at $2. Could this become more volatile? Well, the market makers thought it would be. So we'll have to see. But utilizing that, we also have a weekly, and a couple of you have emailed me, and I've sent you this indicator for Thinkorswim. But this is a weekly expected move. It's on all charts, so it's real easy to take a look and see, hey, what's next week's high and low? And of course, it will all depend. The calculation is always done at the end of Friday. So even though we can see it, it's based on what today's price is, like right now. So you could see that the high, and look at where the confluence is, right at the 20. The 20 is my favorite, and this is exponential moving average. It's one of my favorite reversion to the mean trades, just as an identifier and how it really relates to all the other indicators that I use. And I don't try to use too many. But when I take a look at where the 20 is right now, look at how next week, depending on if we close right here, right? Next week's high is right at 543.50, and next week's low expected move, right? These are expected moves, is at 501.83. So as we take a look at that, we can kind of identify in a really quick visual that this middle white line right here identifies point of control. So wherever we close today, we look at that line and say, if we open on Monday above that line, then probabilities is that we may be heading up to that 542.86 level. And if we open up below that or break below that, right, we can then look at that 501.68 level. And so that's a really nice way in order to strategize with butterflies, weekly butterflies, etc. If you're wanting to put them on, both sides of the spectrum or whatever, you can email me at sandra@tradingmadesimple.org, and I will send you the script for this. Now, when we are taking a look at this, you could see that this week we ended up, and you could see where the market makers, by the way, this was the previous week. The market makers already put this down here. It kind of can give you a little bit of a forecasting tool if you're not really good with charting analysis. So that's really something to take into consideration as you try to analyze the tools that you have on your chart. So when the market makers did their expected move, you could see that not only did we hit the low end, but we also hit and surpassed the high end. And now we're actually hanging around this week's high. Now, when I describe it like this, I want you to take a look at where we are right now. And where we are right now identifies where the weekly expected move is going to be for next week. And as you take a look at the indicator, you could see instead of it being positioned lower than last week, do you see how it's a little higher for next week? So this is interesting, right? We'll have to see how good the market makers are at their own expected moves. However, for right now, you could see that it is a little higher. Now, oftentimes when we break that weekly expected move, we'll come down and retest it. And oftentimes we will continue in the next week to go higher. We'll have to see if that works out. And the same is true for the downside. So as we take a look at the downside, you could see that, we'll come and break through it during the week. This is 1 week period. We come up and retest it, right? And then what do? We continue to go down the next following week. And so sometimes that's helpful if you're not good with charting analysis. It can give you a little bit more confidence, right? In saying, this looks interesting. We're sitting here testing this week's high right now. We're right below it. This week's high is located at, what is that? Exactly 525.15. By the way, if you're detail oriented like I am, there is no such thing as exactly in the stock market. So this zone right here is around 525.15. So that's what we're looking at. But what else do we see on a daily? We see that the momentum is below the zero line. Now the momentum came up to the zero line, and it's in this choppy zone right here. From 100 to 100 right here, it's choppy. Now, if you don't have the wave indicator, which is, an indicator that Trading Made Simple, I developed to visually identify, right? You're visually trying to identify a good setup. I don't have the bullseye on right now, but the wave really kind of lets you know when, hey, when momentum is above the 0 line and price is above the 20, you could use this. You could use the CCI, by the way, which is an old school momentum indicator, but it's one of my favorites. So you could use the CCI, which is free on Thinkorswim. It looks just like this, just not as colorful. And you could say, hey, when momentum crosses above the 0 line, and this could be for any chart that you're taking a look at, okay, guys? So above the 0 line, and then when price breaks above the 20, we need a clearing candle above the 20 on whatever chart you're looking at. That would signify a trend change, because right now the trend is bearish, right? But if we break above that 20, I always like to say, and momentum getting above that 0 line, that could help you kind of see the evidence around, okay, this looks like we might be changing trend, and now we're going bullish. So something to take in consideration as you're looking at the charts and trying to decide, what in the world am I going to do with this kind of week, right? It's been exciting, I have to say. And by the way, if you're an automator, that typically aligns with trend trading. We like to take advantage of, strong moves. And so in automation, you're utilizing support and resistance, point of control for your triggers when you automate. And so when you're automating that, right, we're looking for a big move either to the high side or to the low side. And then that automation just gets you in and out as quickly as possible as those triggers are met. So it's a great way to just take the emotion out of it and not really care. And because we have support and resistance, by the way, guys, above point of control each and every week, right? Could we not then utilize those triggers for the high side and the low side? So what we teach is like you're going to be you're going to be programming your trades not only for calls on the same ticker, but also for puts. Because you could have a week like this week where not only the call trigger gets hit, but also the put gets hit, right? And then you're profiting from both sides. So the only time that automation is not great is when we're choppy. And even as a manual trader, when there's a choppy environment, it's just going to chop you up, right? So for automation, we're definitely trend traders. So as I'm taking a look at SPY, you could see that SPY is below the 0. So we're still bearish. Now, oftentimes what this wave will do is it'll come up, it'll kind of test the 0 and then come right back down. But what's interesting is that if it does, right, what's our expected move for next week? Is 501.45. And how could that expected move help you when you're kind of strategizing, your plays? Well, it can help you because it'll keep your expectations in check, right? So the market makers typically are pretty good at pricing the volatility because they're taking all the Greeks. You don't have to calculate all the Greeks. The market makers are doing all of that. They're doing it for you on the platform. That's why it's so nice to utilize either Thinkorswim or maybe IBKR. They both have automation type of tools that are already afforded to you, so you don't have to download any special software or anything. And so it's easy to maintain. And so as you take a look at this, you could say, if I wanted to go down to the downside, right, I can then say, I'm going to take today's low as an example. If we break today's low, then we're heading down to this this target, next week. Now, if you go on a smaller time period, I really like to use a 15 as well as an hourly on a day chart. If we look at SPY on a day chart, you could see that we gap down. This little shaded area is the gap that we gap down on. Now, why is that so important? Well, oh my gosh, gaps are fun to play. And what I mean by that is when you see a gap, you already know that price action always wants to fill a gap at some point. And so knowing where the gaps are helps you to identify a possible strategy, right? And that would be a gap play. So this gap finder right here allows me to just visually immediately look at the chart and know we have a gap up there. We never, we came over here, we barely even tested the bottom of this level. Now, the level of the gap on the high side and on the low side, right? They're support and resistance levels on their own. And you could see that there's like a 50 cent or a 50% kind of marker right in the middle of this little gap zone. And so that's really showing you that if we break above the bottom of the gap, 533.37, we could start having a gap fill. That would be a good strategy for a play, right? And then if we, actually break that 50 percentile and we come up here and break above it, then it's a gap and go. And then we could have some, real strong activity. But when price stays below the gap and never ever attempts to even try to break it, that's really bearish. So just FYI. So on a 15-minute chart, I like to look at short swings on a 15 as well as on an hourly. You can see on a 15, momentum is still down. Here is the weekly expected move kind of level that it's kind of staying in. Remember that it broke above it yesterday and now is breaking below it today, but kind of staying right on it, which is actually not bad. I could see why now the market makers have their expected move a little higher, right? A little higher, not lower. So this will be interesting to see what we do next week. But this is a fast changing market, guys, with tweets and news. You're really, you're at their whim. So this is, if there was ever a time to identify not only a bullish trade, but also a bearish trade and have that strategy in place, because these are the times where both of them are going to hit in one day. And so having this high of volatility at 46 could really identify, what kind of strategy you might want to get into. So as we take a look at SPY, still going lower. Now we're at 290, right? We started the session out with 64 cents lower. You could see that on an hourly, we're just breaking below the zero line here. We are at this support, right? It was resistance. We broke through it. It then becomes resistance. We broke above it yesterday. And are we going to stay above it for next week? If we do, it could mean we could go a little higher as momentum just kind of, stays at that zero line. This could turn back into a bullish wave here. If it takes a deep dive, right, then it's going to be a bearish wave. So SPY looking interesting at this level. I'm a little curious to see what happens next week. The thing about price action, though, and news events, right? You're really not taking, it's really hard to do charting analysis with news events, geopolitical stuff going on and so forth. So you're really at the whim of these headlines. And so, you really have to define your risk and make sure you stick by it. So you could see that we had this on the Qs, we had a gap yesterday. Yesterday we gapped down. We've never filled it. Could next week be a time to fill this gap? As we take a look at the daily and see that the bracket is a little higher than last week's bracket, right? Okay. A little bit helpful. But on a daily, you could see that we're just rising up. So we might get a little pop. I don't know. You could see that we hit the 20 and came right back down. So that 20 is acting as resistance. We really need to get above that. So we have some resistance right there at 466.97. Let's make it 467. And the VIX actually lowering right now. I can see that. We were at 46 when we started the session. We're at 45.67. You could see that the Q's having a little green candle here. Amazing how you could just look at that indicator or this label and then identify, what could be happening right now as we speak. So as we see the Q's here, let's just really quickly go over a couple of the markets and see if we can put on a trade. I've been kind of rambling on. If you guys have any questions, please throw them out there. I'm sorry. I've just been kind of just going on automatic here. So we got IWM. IWM on a daily. Let's take a look at the IWM on a daily. IWM, also, right, hitting its high and its low for the week a couple times. Now, I typically set my automations on the weekend and just let them play out. But my gosh, if you hit both sides, I guess you could on Wednesday or something, put your automations right back on for the same levels, right? And then look at it hit all in one day, I might add. Wow, what a day that was. And then, as you can see, momentum is still below the zero line. And look at next week's expected move, guys. Look at next week's. IWM can be choppy next week, going sideways here. We have some movement, right, from 178 to 171, but you can see the difference between the SPY next week's expected move and IWM, how this one is sideways, where SPY was a little bit higher. Let's take a look at that. A little bit higher. So that's what I mean about that. So if you want that indicator, you can email me, Sandra@tradingmadesimple.org. Let's see, what else do we have? So IWM looking like possibly going into a sideways action maybe for next week. Momentum is also weak on a daily. And look at DIA. DIA a little bit higher, right? This kind of looks like SPY actually. So a little bit higher, that high side, expected high move, right at that 20 EMA, right? Nice confluence there. What else is there? I always love this. Is I have this indicator that identifies consolidation for a time period. And that's what those purple lines are. And where's that purple line? Right on top of next week's expected move. You got to love that. So I like it. All right. So enough about how I like indicators, right? I love everything trading. It always just is fascinating to me. I just love it. All right. But at the end of the day, I'd rather go enjoy life, be able to participate in the markets, hence the automation specialty. All right. So let's take a look at TSM. It looks like TSM was something you guys wanted to take a look at earlier. You could see they have some earnings here on the 17th for next week. Where were we at here on TSM? All right, so we actually had a daily watch list that had TSM on it. We were looking for, let's see, 155. Let me take a look at where our levels are. Looking at this, it looks like if we break this week's high, we could go higher, but we still have this 20 EMA as a as resistance. But as we look at it on a daily, let me just take a look at my list here. It looks like for TSM, we were looking to go long when we hit 155.50. So today it looks like it hit 157. And we actually had targets at 160 and 164. It hasn't hit it yet. Looks like it came down. Looks as if we have a gap below us. We did a partial, not even a 50%, popped right back up. And now it's just hanging around its weekly expected move high for this week. You could see that TSM also up $3.47. By the way, guys, when it's this volatile, right? Anything could happen at the end of the day. So as I take a look at this and I recognize that, let's take a look what well, we're right at the high right here. So could we go a little higher? Absolutely, we could today. If we take a nice bounce here, this would be good. We could come and retest the 158 area. If we retest that 158 area, we could actually get that gap filled, right? So you could see that we did a partial gap fill, almost all of it. Now, oftentimes on gaps, right? This is yesterday's gap, and then this is this morning's gap. So oftentimes, I mean, we don't have to fill the entire gap. We can just fill a portion of it, but typically price action wants to go retest gap levels. And so as we take a look at that, you can see that it went above it. Almost maybe 80% of that gap is filled. Let's put it at 90%. As far as I'm concerned, that gap has already been filled. Could it come up though and do a double top? Absolutely. If it breaks that top and it breaks that resistance on the gap, that'll be a gap and go, and we could hit to 160. Now, looking at this, I can see that this week's expected move high is acting as support. You could see that price broke below it. This we call a fake out zone because price never leaves it. There's no like independent candle that's just away from that area. That's what I always look at, is an independent candle away from it. You could see that we had one here, but head back down lower to test it. It tested and it held as support. You could see that price action right now on a 15 is also retesting it and it's holding as support. On a smaller time frame, looks like it's right below it. and hanging around that 20. So this little zone right here is definitely a fake out zone. It could do either or. So TSM, I'm not really loving it. It seems like price action is real choppy, and the market makers were looking for possibly a bigger move here. Let's see what the expected move for TSM was today. $3.19 it was. Looks like it still has $1.50. By the way, guys, if you ever look over here, this is the expected move, right? And then if you go over here, you could see kind of what's outstanding. So there's about $1.50 that's still outstanding on TSM, on the play itself. So as we take a look at that, 150, 162. So maybe this previous right here. So really kind of choppy, but it looks like it's going to test on a 5-minute for a daily. But it looks like price action is just really too choppy. I'd really like to see momentum get strong, break above the 0 line, break above the 100. That means we're heading over to the 200 over here, which could give it some room. Let's see, what else do we have for TSM? I'm going to look at it on a daily as we start to take a look. I'm running out of time and I apologize. I can see this maybe coming up here. Got a lot of resistance here. Not really liking TSM. All right, so let's go over to Netflix. Netflix, what do we have? Well, this week, we never hit the low on Netflix. But we did hit this week's high, and now we're coming down to retest this week's expected move high. So that's actually pretty interesting here. We're down $9 on Netflix. Netflix would be good for a debit spread. Still weak on momentum. We haven't broken above it. I'd really like to see it break above on a daily for us to go a little higher. Let's take a look at Apple. You know what everything looks like? Everything today looks like it's getting ready to just do a kind of a reshort. But as I take a look at the market makers' moves, right? Let's take a look at, because we were talking about that. Look at TSM. TSM a little higher, right? A little higher. It could still go lower, right? It could hit the low of 145, but you could see how the bracket is a little higher than if it was placed down here or completely sideways. And so that's what makes me think that next week is going to be choppy and, possibly get some wild moves, but not to break this week's low, right? Not to break this week's low, which could be a repair job. So TSM on that. Let's take a look at Netflix. Not sure I'm gonna. Oh, I don't have time to put on a trade now. Netflix looks like possibly some sideways action. Just looking at those tools that I kind of described today. And we have Apple. Apple actually looks like it may want to go up a little higher. So guys, if you're interested in this indicator, email me. I'll send it out to you. Sandra at tradingmadesimple.org. Want to learn about some automation utilizing your own platform, like Thinkorswim, by the way, which is really easy to do. Tradingmadesimple.org /autopilot. Okay, guys, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.